Good morning. Welcome to the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors meeting for July 14, 2015. I just want to report out, we started this morning at 8 with closed session, and there were a couple of items. First one was a public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1, Environmental Management Agency Administrator, Air Pollution Control Officer. And so on a motion by, I'd like to report out on a motion by Supervisor Ponte and a second by Supervisor Kearney. The board voted 4-0 with one absent to appoint Jason Botzer as Environmental Management Administrator, Air Pollution Control Officer, effective July 25th, 2015. The board directed the CAO to return on July 28, 2015, with a resolution memorializing this decision. I'd like to comment a little bit on that. We're very fortunate to, in environmental health, to have the expertise that we have there with Jason. And so we've all had experience with him in dealings with different issues, and feel very confident that that's a really good decision. So Jason, front and center, please. So in case you don't know Jason, this is Jason Botzer. He's been with the county for how long?
13 years
13
in August.
Years, so.
Yeah. So good morning, Chair Edson and Supervisors. I just want to thank you for this opportunity to continue to serve the citizens of Calaveras County and work with you and the public and the entities that we work with on a day-to-day basis to implement all our programs. So thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah, so public comment. So anybody have any public comments on that? On that particular item?
Is that a pledge of allegiance this morning?
We're not there yet. Okay, so the second, we had another closed session and no action taken. So now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so any announcements from the board? Okay. All right. So we'll go into recognition and acknowledgments. Administrative Office adoption of a proclamation recognizing and commend the Ebbets Pass Fire District for its service to the citizens of Calaveras County on the occasion of its 50th anniversary. 50th anniversary. And Supervisor Kearney is going to sit in for Supervisor Calaveras to hand out this proclamation.
We came in mass, so that doesn't say the right to it.
Yeah. You guys can come on up here, right? Yeah. Thank you. You're the row members here. Well, I'm real privileged to represent who normally would be Mike Calaveras to read this to you, and thank you for all the hard work that you've done. It's a proclamation for the Board of Supervisors recognizing and commending the Ebbets Pass Fire District for its service to the citizens of Calaveras County on the occasion of its 50th anniversary. Supervisors are located in the forested region of the Sierra Nevada mountain range in Calaveras County, California. And whereas area citizens recognize a need for increased year-round fire protection and decided to form the Evans Pass Fire District in 1965, and whereas the Evans Pass Fire District has grown from an all-volunteer department in 1965 to hiring their first full-time 24-hour employees, to providing advanced life support response, to providing ALS transportation, what is now a full-service professional firefighting and fire prevention agency, with the Evans Pass Firefighters Association to support its efforts. And whereas the Evans Pass Fire District worked tirelessly over the years to raise funds to secure special equipment to serve the community, including autopods, ambulance transport units, and the engines, and advanced and specialized training a priority over the years, always seeking to better meet the needs of its citizens. And whereas the modern, efficient district now protects growing communities of over 10,000 in population growth in excess of 26,000 during recreational periods, and is a member, mutual, and community network throughout Calaveras County and the state of California. And whereas Evans Pass Fire District marks its 50th anniversary by celebrating the citizens, volunteer elected officials, and staff who strive to preserve and enhance the community of the area. Now, should I go first?
Yes. So can I have a motion on this?
So moved.
Second. So a motion by Supervisor Ponte and a second by Supervisor Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors on this 23rd day of June 2015 that it hereby does recognize and commend the Evans Pass Fire District for its service to the citizens of Calaveras County on the occasion of its 50th anniversary. Good job, boy.
You don't have to present it to anybody. Just got here.
You bet.
We vote on it.
Thank you.
I just don't want to read them all myself. There's three of them. I got her to do one too. Yeah. Okay.
If I may, I'll introduce myself again. Tom Sullivan, Evans Pass Fire. If I may, I'd like to thank the Honorable Chairman and the Board for this proclamation. It's really a team effort. It's not only the fire department, but the community who backs us so well. We have a lot of transparency up there in government, and most people like what they see, and that's the way we want to keep it. So thank you again.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask if there's any public comments on this proclamation, please. I know it's a little late, but if there is, I sure would like to hear them.
Good morning, board members. I served as a volunteer in the Evans Pass Fire District for 9 years, from 1978, and it's a great fire district. In fact, I had the station, and I was the driver in Hathaway Pines.
Any other public comment? All right, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for your service. Yeah. All right. Okay, so next we have three more proclamations that are have to do with recognizing first a CHP officer. So it's a proclamation commending California Highway Patrol Sergeant Brian Hemingway for receiving CHP Meritorious Achievement Award, which will be delivered today at Ironstone. And so at right around 20 after 10 or 10:30, I'll be running up there to if these are voted by the board, I'll be running up there to deliver that. And Dana Jorgen's actually going to run up there as well today. So we'll start with that one, and then there's two more after it for to recognize a couple of their youth. What is it? The youth cadets. It's not a cadet program though. It's yeah. Yeah. So we'll get. I'll read those in a moment. So. First of all, it's a proclamation commending California Highway Patrol CHP Sergeant Brian Hemingway for receiving the CHP Meritorious Achievement Award. And that is one step below the government, or Governor's Award. Whereas on February 8, 2013, Sergeant Brian Hemingway responded to a traffic accident involving a single vehicle. And whereas upon arrival at the scene, Sergeant Hemingway discovered a California Department of Transportation Caltrans vehicle up against a tree with its engine racing at high rate of speed and a large volume of smoke coming from the vehicle. And whereas with disregard of his own safety, Sergeant Hemingway entered the vehicle to free the unconscious driver from his safety restraint, and then again to free the driver's trapped left foot. And what happened was he went into the driver's door to get him out, couldn't because his foot was trapped, so he ran around the other side of the vehicle while this vehicle was at risk, and went in and finally freed his foot to get him out. And whereas Sergeant Hemingway was able to extricate the driver from the vehicle as it began to catch fire and move him away from the vehicle as the front of the vehicle became completely engulfed in flames. And whereas because of Sergeant Hemingway's quick response and act of bravery, paramedics were able to quickly assess that the driver was a cardiac arrest and immediately began CPR and advanced life support, successfully resuscitating the driver. And whereas Sergeant Hemingway received the CHP Meritorious Achievement Award for his act of bravery to save the life of a Caltrans worker who was involved in a traffic collision in which the driver was in cardiac arrest and the vehicle was becoming engulfed in flames. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Board of Supervisors, Calaveras County hereby commends Sergeant Hemingway of this act of bravery and receiving the CHP Meritorious Achievement Award on this 14th day of 2015. So, can I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Kearney, a second by Supervisor Ponte. Can I have public comments, if there are any? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So it's 4-1, 4-0, and 1 absent. Okay. Okay. It's nice to know that that we have folks in our police and fire and our CHP that this is what they do. They of course work safe, but they look at our safety and they react and act in without really thinking of themselves in many cases. So we have another proclamation commending Brianna Gill for receiving the President's Silver Volunteer Service Award. So whereas Calaveras High student Brianna Gill has served in the California Highway Patrol CHP Explorer program for the past 2 years, and whereas Brianna has volunteered for more than 175 hours in the CHP Explorer program, and whereas Brianna was awarded the Silver President's Volunteer Service Award in recognition and appreciation of her commitment to strengthen our nation and communities through volunteer service. And whereas Brianna has also received a congressional letter from the President of the United States, and now therefore be proclaimed, the Board of Supervisors, Calaveras County hereby commends Brianna Gill for receiving the Silver President's Volunteer Service Award this 14th day of July 2015. They're also going to be at Ironstone, Brianna and Guillermo, to receive awards from up there as well. So we'll be presenting these awards to them as well. So can I have a motion on this, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
So a motion by Supervisor Kearney and a second by Supervisor Ponce. Do I have any public comments on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So it's 3, 2 absent. So it's a proclamation commending Guillermo Hernandez for receiving the President's Bronze Volunteer Service Award. Whereas Calaveras High School student Guillermo Hernandez has served in the California High Patrol CHP Explorers Program for the past 2 years, and whereas Guillermo has volunteered for more than 100 hours of CHP Explorer program, and whereas Guillermo was awarded the Bronze President's Volunteer Service Award in recognition and appreciation for his commitment to strengthen our nation and communities through volunteer services, and whereas Guillermo has also received a congratulatory letter from the President of the United States, and now therefore be proclaimed, the Board of Supervisors, Calaveras County hereby commends Guillermo Hernandez for receiving the Bronze President's Volunteer Service Award this 14th day of July 2015.
Make a motion to approve.
Well, we got to have a public comment. Any public comments on this, please? I know it's a little back. Okay, go ahead.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second the
So
motion.
we have a motion by Supervisor Pawnee, a second by Supervisor Kearney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's 3, 1. 3 and 2, I'm sorry. So just to let you know that the CHP Explorer program is run by a couple of really fine officers. Darren Mills is one of them, and that is not an easy program for the students. It is a very rigorous program, but these 2 young people stepped up. I think they have 8 or 10 in it now, but these 2 young people stepped up and really took this seriously, and this is recognized by, I don't think any other time in our county's history actually have 2 students in an Explorers program been recognized by the President of the United States. So that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So we certainly appreciate their efforts. All right. Almost feels like this is the clip show. I don't like this too much, but all right. So I have I get a special treat today by honoring Hunter Rouge for earning the rank of Eagle Scout. And I was present at Hunter's when he did his Eagle Scout project at the Valley Springs General Veterans Memorial Hall. And beautiful job he did. It was, he had 2 granite benches with a granite eternal flame in the middle of them. And then in front of that, at the deck, there were granite bricks that were in the cement, put in the cement with, that people purchased for, to be able to recognize their veterans of choice. And it was absolutely beautiful. So, Hunter, could you step forward, please? I don't remember if you being 16 when I was 16. You're getting shorter. Yeah, you know, as time goes on, that's happening. So this is quite an achievement, especially for such a young man. And if you ever heard him speak, that would be a very, very good treat. He gave a speech at his when he was presenting his project that that actually made me a little bit jealous because this young man here is a natural speaker. So I really appreciate that. Speaking in public is not an easy thing to do. So I'd like to present this proclamation honoring you today. Whereas Boy Scouts of America is a value-based organization offering young men benefits and opportunities rooted in values such as fairness, self-respect, community service, and high standards of conduct. And whereas Tucker Bruce joined the Cub Scouts when he was 6 years old, 6 years old, the Scouts. So he was first a Boy Scout, and then up to, or first a Cub Scout, and then up to Boy Scout. Whereas Hunter's troop, number 302, cleans and maintains Virginia Glen Cemetery. And whereas Hunter was a charter member of past president of Junior Interact Pilot Disaster Box for Calaveras County. And whereas Hunter volunteers at food bank and delivers food baskets in December. And whereas Hunter has earned the rank of Eagle Scout just recently. And whereas for his Eagle Scout project, he erected an internal flame directly behind a deck of granite bricks engraved with the names of many veterans at the Veterans Hall, and then also the 2 granite benches. And whereas Hunter chose the saying by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, "The truth is found when men are free to pursue it," shows that himself. And therefore, we proclaim that the Board of Supervisors of Calaveras County hereby commends Hunter Rich for his outstanding achievements in earning the rank of Eagle Scout tonight. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second. So I have a motion by Supervisor Ponte, second by Supervisor Wright. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do that, let's have some public comments.
My name is Jack Cox. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Yosemite County Council, the Boy Scouts of America, and we represent 5 counties, including Calaveras County, and I want to commend you on behalf of the council. I wasn't aware of this until just now, but you've done a terrific job. And I also want to commend the Board of Supervisors for supporting the Boy Scouts of America. We have a strong program. I was a Scoutmaster for 9 years myself, and Hunter, good job. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. My name is Lou DeMond, and I'm past commander of American Legion Post 102 Valley Springs. I would like to, first of all, commend you, Hunter. You did an outstanding job recognizing veterans. And on behalf of the American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign Wars, I want to thank you. I'd like to thank the Board for recognizing this outstanding young man.
I'm Dana Jorgensen with Senator Berryhill and Assemblyman Bigelow, and I do have a certificate from them that I'd like to come and present to you. The California Legislative Certificate to Hunter Rouge, and it's for all your achievements as an Eagle Scout. And how many badges do you have? A lot. You have 30? I think when I did it, I only recognized a couple of those, but I was in Boy Scouts. Didn't quite get as far as you, which I did, but I always had a lot of fun too. And this is one of the things that in our job that I really enjoy doing, because you are a future leader.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thank you. Any other public comments?
Good morning. My name is Don Posen. I'm the charter representative for the American Legion to the Boy Scouts. And I just want to thank you, Hunter, for your outstanding job. In my tenure as a charter rep, we have had over 20 Boy Scouts meet Eagle. He's one of the finest. Thank you.
Not only do I want to thank you for reaching Eagle Scout, but I want to thank your parents for supporting you, and I think that's really important.
We have to do the official vote.
As we're doing the official vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So it's 4-1 with 1 absent. So, yeah. Thank you very much, Hunter, for letting me be a part of this process as well. I just enjoyed watching you do it. And I think it was about like this call when you started, right? And then all of a sudden you get really fast. So could I have Hunter's parents up here, please? So here's the proud parents of Hunter, who obviously was actively involved in his success with the and with Boy Scouts, Sherry and John Bruce. And I'd like to give them a hand for their. So he also has a sister who's over there. It's a family thing. We like family stuff. So, some folks talk about, when you have families that get engaged with their kids like this and help them, we actually produce pretty good leaders, and we're really thankful for that. So, I really appreciate your time. She was like that all. And then Hunter also has something to present.
First off, I'd like to thank everyone who has helped and supported my project. And I cannot put into words how much I truly thank and appreciate every single one who's helped me along the way. And at this time, I'd like to invite Lou DeMond back up here. And I'd like to present him with a check to the American Legion for $325 for the campaign project.
So what happened was Hunter did his project, and there was, we're not fundraising for it, and there was money left over, so it's offered it back to the
What I'd like to say is the American Legion Honor Card provides full military funeral honors for deceased veterans in Calaveras County. The members of the Honor Guard pay for their own expenses, their own uniforms. The Honor Guard is mandated by the Department of Defense to provide funeral honors with no funding, and we will use this money here to continue doing this service. Thank you again.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, now that all the fun stuff is over with. Can we move on to public comment, please? Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted at on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the consent agenda. If the public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued at the conclusion of the regular agenda in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard. And so today we'll have a 3-minute time period for public comments.
At a recent meeting of the Board of Supervisors, a member of this board made some comments, and as much as I respect that member, we believe are wrong and damaging to our community. My name is Jack Cox. I'm from Lake Tulloch. This member demonstrated a complete indifference to the plight of the people of the Motherlode when he voiced support for a policy that is draining water from our lakes for no good purpose. Under the Endangered Species Act, Governor Brown's water board is trying to grow the population of salmon in the rivers and below going into the Pacific Ocean. The scheme is that flushing cold water out of the bottom of dams will be basically through these dams. And the problem is it doesn't work and it's very expensive. 30,000 acre-feet of water was flushed out of the Loonies this spring, and that's going to continue. This is enough water for a city of 300,000 for a year. The total number of fish impacted in May were 9 steelhead at a cost of about $2 million a fish. There is no scientific justification of this. Doug Demko of Fish Bio and internationally recognized experts have noted that most of the fish here aren't native. The goal to expand the salmon population to 20,000 won't work because the streams can only handle 5,000. Their non-native habitat does not support fish. Only 3% of the delta has any habitat anymore because of the rock levees. And predator fish such as bass, planted by the state and the federal government, are basically eating these fish as they go downstream. The supervisors tried to justify this policy, declaring that the new Maloney's Dam was established and built in part and to enhance fisheries. But New Maloney's was approved by Congress in 1944, and the Endangered Species Act wasn't law until December 28, 1973, nearly 30 years later. People in this county depend upon tourism. They're being hurt big time by the emptying of these reservoirs. While the drought contributed to our problems, politicians and extreme environmental activists hold primary responsibility. The real estate market in Lake Tulloch in our area has taken a severe hit. The other big problem with this is that the idea was we're going to be able to take the water out of basically the lake support provides all the water to Lake Tulloch. Well, CCWD will talk about this, I'm sure, maybe today, but basically where they're taking the water of these pipes they've dropped down deeper, now they're finding the salinity, all of the dirt at the bottom of the lake may make the water really unusable. The other major issue he pointed out to, he demonstrated a complete indifference when he called for Castle and Cook to pack up from our county and leave. They've poured tens of millions of dollars into our economy and taxes. Our community of Copperopolis is a better place because of this, and I would really hope that the supervisor would retract these comments. We need hotels that are prepared to build and other things at Lake Tulloch, and this is a time for economic growth, not economic stagnation. We don't need no growth. We need growth. We need jobs. We need economic opportunity. Without it, it's going to be stagnation, and it's going to destroy this county. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jack Kuhn. I'm the chairman of the Library Commission, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank the Board of Supervisors for their support in getting a new roof for the Murphy's Volunteer Library. That roof has been completed. Everyone seems to be happy with the job, and I just wanted to come here and say thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Russ Thomas, a former member of the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors. Shirley, nice to see you with your brand new county administrative officer. Congratulations. Hello, David. Anyway, the reason I'm here and the reason that I didn't show up at the joint session last week is I was on a trip after having spent about a month working in Mississippi. But after reading the newspaper and seeing Supervisor Wright's comments in response to a plea by Castle and Cook that they were being ill-treated by the proposed provisions in the general plan, I was really shocked that that a sitting member of the Board of Supervisors, the same seat or similar seat that I held and worked very closely with your predecessor, Steve Walensky, for 4 years, trying to build up the economic potential of Calaveras County, and to have it plainly written in the paper that the person who replaced Supervisor Walensky was saying that he is perfectly happy with Calaveras County the way it is now, that the principal and singularly large corporate participant in the economic growth of Calaveras County is inviting them to leave and take their money with them. That's irresponsible. I think that I can't express my frustration with that. I hope that you would reconsider and maybe, if nothing more, express the justification for that feeling. I noted that here on the July 28th, you're going to have a session, upcoming items, Economic Development Company presentation on July 28th. If everybody on the Board of Supervisors feels the same way that Supervisor Wright feels, why bother? Why bring the Economic Development Committee to talk to you? Just tell them to stay away. We don't need them. We don't need that attitude about economic prosperity in this county. It seems to me that one of the principal responsibilities of the member of this board should be to look forward to raising the tax revenues. I don't know. It's baffling to me how that could have happened. And the other thing that I wanted to say in passing or in conclusion is that after having spent 10 years on the Copperopolis Community Plan Advisory Committee, a completely supported effort by the Board of Supervisors through 3 different supervisors prior to me, and a couple since then, it is very distressing. I don't know how in the world you could possibly expect volunteers to continue to step forward and serve this county when you completely disregard their efforts. Over 10 years, hundreds of meetings, thousands of hours, and it's just all, this is evidence of all the meetings that we had. Just please do something about that. You owe it to the citizens of Copperopolis.
My name is Greg Meyer. I'm from the Copperopolis Lake Tulloch area. And in February of this year, residents of the Copperopolis area were put on notice that there was going to be a possible drawdown of Lake Tulloch, and it would occur in 2015. Media coverage has done, by and large, an excellent job of revealing the impact of failed environmental policies on our community. The community, the Copperopolis community and communities throughout the Sierra Foothills region of California are engaged. The biological opinion documented by the Marine Fisheries Service in 2009 has led to the OCAP fish flow releases that are threatening to drain our reservoirs in the middle of the current drought. What happened to conserving water? There seems to be no accountability. These environmental policymakers are not being held accountable to prove that this policy is effective or for the destructive effects on local economy, ecology, on the social human impacts. It is not acceptable during a drought that human uses and agricultural uses are not put above fish. Regarding the Copperopolis Community Plan submitted in 2009, it was a complete document. There was no contention amongst the Community Plan Committee members. The members of the committee were diverse. We had long-established family members, stakeholders, healthcare experts, engineers, developers, realtors, biologists, representatives from every HOA and neighborhood were included. The committee worked shoulder to shoulder with planning department directors and staff who were at every meeting. We were told that of all of the non-incorporated communities in Calaveras County, that Copperopolis had the most urgent need for good long-term planning. The community came together in this well-publicized effort and made the community's desires known. It is not reasonable after 23 years to expect the planning process to start over every time there's a new supervisor or a new planning director. The community has spoken. Make the necessary changes to the 2009 completed document that you, the County Board of Supervisors, the Planning Department, promised to do, and use it. Regarding reduction of future land use designations in a wholesale fashion within the sphere of influence of the Copperopolis community, I recognize that changes of land use designations that are always needed in a general plan update. Some changes need to be made to comply with zoning changes that have occurred. There should be some downgrading and some upgrading. This mad rush to resource production and similar uses in Copperopolis areas are irresponsible. We need flexibility, and we need our options for economic development open. There seems to be no institutional memory among staff or elected representatives, and to be honest, at this point, this really only bothers me when it affects our community. Thank you.
Thanks.
Jeff Krovitz, Public Works Director, Calaveras County. Just wanted to let the board and staff know that I have a visual aid on the plaza. When we have a break, if you could take a look at it. It's a 2 cubic yard bale of pine needles. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. Dennis Mills. I'd like to respond to what Supervisor Wright took the opportunity in doing in kind of going off the reservation and using the bully pulpit of no rebuttal in our last joint general plan hearing. I'm talking about New Maloney's, and it's a history for him that can only be viewed from a perspective, not as a participant like I was, but one who only could have read or heard about it. I'm taking the opportunity to talk about the successful fight to permanently kill the effort to make the Stanislaus a federal wild and scenic river, and doing so gain a full use to the lake and the river. We're talking about the 70s to 82. There's a book written about it. It's called Stanislaus, Struggle for a River, and I'm in it, page 132. There are articles in the newspapers going back then that were written about it, and I'm in it. So why is this personal? Because I was the executive secretary of Fill the Dam, working with Nancy Whittle, John Hurdle, Frank Solel from Sonora, John Garamendi, and thousands of others to see it happen. Our goal was accomplished. As we see a full use of the Stanislaus River and a full use of New Maloney's over the past 35 years and the economic benefits that we, the county, have derived from it, it's without question what's kind of made us go. State ballot Proposition 17 intended to limit the filling of New Maloney's. It was defeated in 1974. I would like to ask you what you would think would have happened had that passed. For those that were not there, it's easy to avoid the original purposes of New Maloney's and what it was envisioned to be. Its original goal was irrigation, flood control, power generation, and recreation. That's it. No fish flows, no salinity reduction, no other activity was mentioned in the original documents. How do I know? Because I was in the hearings in Calaveras and Tuolumne County when this project was being presented. Fish flows and salinity reduction came later as a result of the 1992 San Joaquin Settlement Agreement and didn't take effect until 2002, which is 20 years later. The fish flow releases you see today are not part of the original operation requirements when the project came online, essentially in 1982 as a result of the El Nino rains. We have gained by this effort to permanently kill the wild and scenic on the Stanislaus. Let's start with the full use of the lake as a recreational destination and additional economic gains from tourists and boating and people who fish from Glory Hole, Tuttletown, Parrott's Ferry, and add a Lake Tulloch that's full and the economic expansion that has occurred around the lake in Copperopolis due to the ability to build the beautiful homes on the lake shore and the stable water levels it has brought. Yes, the drought has changed Tulloch, but it's not due to Maloney's lacking inflow water. It's due to the federal and state agencies wasting precious water trying to save fish. How about the cost of energy savings from the county and the member agencies that are provided low-cost power by the Calaveras Public Power Authority? CCWD customers benefit as the single largest user of CPPA power. And we could go on to the North Fork project. I have a 5-minute statement here. But it's all bottom line economics, and we have won. And with being not a wild and scenic river, I'd say we won that battle. And for anybody that wants to continue to argue it, get over it.
morning. Deborah Mullen, Public Works, Calaveras Transit. I'd like to give the board and the public a little update on the Calaveras-Stockton intercity route. We expect to receive the new bus in 2 or 3 weeks, and we've been working to fine-tune the route, the stops, working with San Joaquin Rapid Transit. They've been really helpful, and they're going to share their facilities. Met with Delta College, and working with them, they're going to help promote the route. What we need now is a great name for the bus, the route. I think Karen gave you a flyer, or I'm going to have some here. We're having a competition. Somebody can win a year's free pass on the buses, and come up with a great name for the bus. You can email it to transit@co.calaveras.ca.us. Any ideas? I'm going to leave these here. People can pick them up.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Elaine St. John, and I'm a realtor, and I'm not being paid to be here today. I should actually be working my small business. But anyway, my husband also works locally. He is a salesperson at True Value Hardware in District 4. And I'm here because I was appalled by the comments that Castle and Cook can take their millions of dollars and go home. I was here when you guys were going over the budget, and how a supervisor that went through the budget could say something like that was just totally beyond my comprehension. Castle and Cook, the annual property tax revenue that they bring in to this county is roughly $900,000. That's a lot of money. This county is broke. I know it's broke. So 2/3 of that will go to schools, which is a super important thing. So we're left with about 16.5%. Copperopolis is struggling, as probably a lot of you know. Coppertown, the pan store, they're going out of business. The furniture store is going out of business. There's no lines at the IGA. There's no lines at True Value Hardware. And why is all this happening? Because we don't have the water up here. You know, we need to have this recreation for people to come. That's how we're going to get our money. That's how we're going to get our businesses going. So the other thing I'd like to touch on, too, is, you know, a lot of people have been talking about the endangered species and the draining of the reservoirs. And I want to preface this by saying that I've been a volunteer with Mickaboo Parrot Rescue. So it's not that I'm against animals or anything like that. And I also was a snorkel guide in the Virgin Islands for 2 years, and I love fish. But I wish what we do is adjourn this meeting right now, and I'll go to Glory Hole. There's no one in the parking lot. There's no one in the campgrounds. There's none of that going on. We're losing all this money. And I also was at 2 of the meetings in Tulloch about draining the lake. One Jack Cox here ran. We had 250 to 300 people, standing room only. People care about this. I helped author a petition to stop the draining of the lake. Got over 600 signatures for that petition. I took it to the State Water Board, the Bureau of Reclamation, Governor Brown. I also went to the OID meeting and presented it there at public comments. I urge you, please, water is our most important thing in this state, and I would like you to fight to keep every single drop of water here in Calaveras County. Don't let it go out to the ocean. I thank you for your time.
Any other public comments?
House of Gallant Taxpayer Association. Perhaps Chris's remarks were spontaneous, maybe in temperament, but actually he might have been very, very honest. This is how he really feels. And he may be representing more than just himself. There's a large movement in our county toward the notion of limiting growth or keep it rural. And we've been watching destruction of projects such as Trinitas and Sawmill and a number of others that are occurring that we think it's caused by maybe problems with the environment or problems with the neighbors. Not really. This is an ideological movement. It's very serious. I even think that its purpose would be never have a full New Maloney's again, and perhaps even tear the dam out. They're following an agenda that's hurtful to modern civilization, and it needs to be exposed. And the more forthright and honest the participants are, it's easy for us then to decide what we want. Do we want modern civilization with water? Everybody in here has a freedom machine. You know what a freedom machine is? It's out in the parking lot. You can go in that freedom machine and drive anywhere. You can drive across country. It's incredible what modern civilization has provided for us, including petroleum, especially petroleum products and energy. We live in a wonderful time with many blessings, and I'd like to concur with the former speakers about the goodness of Castle and Cook's developments, and also the evilness of the federal government action in destroying our water and wasting our water. And we hope that future decisions will be better than past ones. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Peter Race. I'm from Jenny Lynn. I'm glad the water issue was brought up. Up at the community hall down a couple of weeks ago, I noticed every one of you folks had a bottle of water. Do you know where that water comes from? All of a sudden, our geniuses in Sacramento discovered a couple of acre-feet of water being called R, or the foothills. Nestle's, and there's another company hauling their double tanker waters out of the foothills. Those bright, intelligent people in Sacramento, they don't know their butts from the hole in the ground, unfortunately, or they're intentionally not giving you the truth. And I think it's basically more like they don't know about it. 20-some years they've been doing it, hauling water out of the foothills. I believe one of them is in this county. They never realized that, folks. That's one thing. The other thing is I'd like to mention is that anybody who puts a bait fish before benefit of human beings is not going to get a Christmas card from me. And I do anything to make sure that they don't get reelected. I don't care if it's a state, federal, or local levels. First and primary thing is those registered voters. I don't care how many they're going to fly in here. But people will vote. And there's a reason we got a good batch of people sitting on the board. Finally, they realized that your constituents are not here to maintain an administration. The administration of the county is supposed to be serving the people. And for many years, and prior supervisors did everything and anything to discourage businesses in this county. Well, take a look at this county. The other thing is, folks, that something is more important that's going to could hurt you. It could make a big influence on us and your constituents. There's some works up in Sacramento concerning Prop 13 and Prop 218. Because I don't care how much population is growing, businesses are leaving, not just this county, but the state. The people are leaving, businesses are leaving. I don't care how many new people are going to be moving into California. If there's no business, it's still going to be a welfare state. You're not going to get the true numbers from Sacramento because they don't know it. Ask any senator, assembly person, and they're not going to be able to account for what money they took in and who's the recipients. It's a lot bigger picture than just this county, unfortunately. So don't get misled, folks.
This whole thing has been created not by local folks. It's been initiated for a long time. All the millions and billions of dollars went for water control, retention of water, and energy. Nobody can account for what it went. But when something is glooming over us, it's Prop 13 and 218. Over a year ago, I told you, what we have here is the wealth of water, and it's worth more than gold and silver. You're not going to drink gold or silver, but you do need water, and it's a human being comes first. Those are your constituents. Those are the ones who vote. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
George Fry. I'm a volunteer here in San Andreas for the restore the floor at the town hall. And you'll see 2 4x8 signs on each end of the town. And we're trying to raise $12,000 to restore the town hall floor. Try to say that a few times. So I'm just encouraging people, and I wanted to take this opportunity on the TV to encourage people to donate. There are white canisters in businesses throughout the town to make donations to the town hall fund. So I just thank you for your time, and this is what it looks like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Any other public comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion. Would anybody from the public like to pull any item of the consent agenda? Okay, anybody from the board? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
All right.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Supervisor Wright, a second by Supervisor Ponte to approve the remainder of the consent agenda, except for number 19, which is being pulled by Mr. Reyes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So it's 4, 1 absent. Okay, number 19.
I pulled my 19 for a simple reason, because I don't want to go through each one of them. Recently, the federal government internal audit showed that there was 15 or $16 billion of fraud in mental services. Now, if I come up here and question certain items in it, oh, you don't care about the ones who need help. I think I care about the ones that need help. If you take a look at it, how much we pay for psychiatrists, psychologists, behavioral science, and so on. But how often do you see the numbers that those extra people get help? Nobody wants to do any harm for the one who needy. But unfortunately, psychiatry and psychology is not exactly a fixed profession. So that's why you got billions of dollars of fraud, unaccounted money for it. I don't know how much you can do about it, because it always comes in a grant and has no effect on general fund. But just think about it. If it's general fund, it's still your constituents' money. They didn't take it out of their left pocket or right pocket or back pocket. It doesn't make any difference. You sign off of it. Oh, it's a great deal. Nothing to do with general fund. But somebody is getting shorted. that billions of dollars going through administration, or is it going through some standby psychiatrist in Yuba County? I hope that you can get your staff to have a little bit more exact accounting for the people who do get help. What it costs for administration and what is it buying. That's the important thing. I'm not against helping the folks. I'm all for it, the needy. But I don't like, and I have maybe a fixation, a sick fixation, I do not like social leeches between a taxpayer and the needy. This money is just, and it constantly, each and every meeting you're going to see, we need more money. And it's told, hey, doesn't do anything but your general fund. But it does do something to your constituents. It's still their money. That's the only thing I'm asking. Thank you.
Mary Sawicki, Director of Calaveras Health and Human Services. On all of our programs, we have ongoing audits, just to let you know, on both the fiscal and programmatic on a yearly basis. In addition, every provider who we have on contract provides us with an independent audit. Any questions?
Isn't a lot of it HIPAA protected also, the information they can get back to us?
There is HIPAA. However, we also have our own staff who also has HIPAA, so they can go in and audit the records.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay. Any other public comments? Any board comments?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
All right, so we have a motion approved by Supervisor Wright, second by Supervisor Kearney, to authorize the board chair to sign Amendment 1 to an agreement with Jesse Lemus, LMFT, in the amount of not to exceed $85,000 for a period of June 30th, 2014 through June 30th, 2016. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So it's 4 with 1 absent. Okay. We'll move right along to our regular agenda. So we have number 22, which is clerk recorder, appointment of applicants to West Point Veterans Memorial District to fill vacancies.
Rebecca Turner, clerk recorder. Typically, this is a non-controversial item, but we were requested to put it on the regular agenda. I don't know if it's because the West Point Veterans Memorial District is constantly requiring appointments. There were only 3 applicants. They need 3 applicants to create a quorum. So if you would appoint them, that would be awesome.
All right. Okay. Any public comments?
Very compelling.
Yeah. Comments from the board, please.
Sounds good to me. I'll make a motion to approve.
So, Becky, do you have the name of the 3 applicants, please?
Want me to help you?
Are they right there?
Yeah, it's Rich Hughes, Peggy Hughes, and Daryl Deaver.
Okay. Sorry. There we go. I probably could have done that myself, but. All right. So, any board comments?
Got you covered.
Thank you, Steve.
No.
I'm happy people are volunteering.
That's good. Any other comments?
No.
All right. Can I have a motion, please?
I so move.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Supervisor Wright, second by Supervisor Ponte. All in favor?
Aye.
So we have a 23 building uphold administrative citation 15-8 regarding Roger Gibbings Patel, 997 Stanley Road, West Point. Authorize a statement abatement of all remaining code violations on the property and the assessment of the lien on the property for the recovery of administrative costs, administrative fines, and abatement costs.
Good morning. Todd Barr with Code Compliance. Brought 5 of these today. Out of the 5, 3 of them are actually their second time around. So apparently when they were fined and leaned the first time, they hadn't learned, and as was the case with this particular property. There's been a lot of law enforcement activity on the property. Vagrants, buildings at this point are not salvageable. They're ready to be removed. Is there any questions?
No. Any public comments?
My only question is that, maybe the inspector can answer me, has those squatting on the property, has that been decreased due to the good weather now? And maybe you can, if the inspectors or neighbor can bring it to your attention, when a home site is abandoned, somebody still have a claim on it or whatever. Can you impose some kind of code or something that they will secure the building, board up the house so squatters don't go in? Because once it's going to get cold, you're going to get more squatters down from the hills to have shelter and minimize the possibility of destroying those buildings. Because you can find if they're willing to leave the home, the property, you really think they're going to care about if you find them or not? But if you can somehow establish a code that once it comes to your attention, would be just cheaper, even if you hire local labor, hey, let's board and secure that property. The neighbors will notice it, so they don't totally vandalize the building and be making it an eyesore. Thank you. Just think about it. I don't know if you can do it or not, but you got some great legal minds. They can come up with something to secure those abandoned buildings and make it safer too.
We actually have done quite a bit of that over the last few years, and we are currently actually working on some code changes concerning foreclosure and abandoned properties to make it easier to secure them and maintain those properties.
Okay. Any other public comments? Board comments?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Supervisor Wright and a second by Supervisor Ponte. All in favor?
Aye.
4-1. Absent. Okay, go ahead. Number 24. Todd?
Yeah, this particular case involves Jonathan Hughes in Camp Connell. Again, this property, or this person has been cited once in the past. There were some improvements made, and then everything just fell apart and went back to worse than it was before, actually, in this particular case. There's also an addition on this property that was started without permits. The structure needs to be secured and basically garbage removed from the property.
Okay. Public comments? Board comments?
Make a motion to approve.
Second the motion.
All right, so we have a motion by Supervisor Ponte, second by Supervisor Kearney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's 4-1. Number 25.
Okay, this is another Hughes, but it's Gary Hughes down in a different place. I feel like a broken record here, but
Any relation?
not that I know of. But this involves a salvage yard and running a business down there, working on trucks. It was just a big mess, and got to the point we were getting weekly complaints concerning this. So he was given plenty of opportunity to come to compliance, just refused to. And even once we issued the citation, he hasn't gotten back to us, just ignored us. So.
Okay, any public comments? Board comments? All right, can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve.
I'll second.
Yeah, it's my district. Yeah. So I have a motion by Supervisor Kearney, second by Supervisor Ponte. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4, 1 absent. All right. Next one, number 26.
Pretty much the same story. Given several chances to clean up vacant property right next to other housing, causing a public nuisance to the neighboring properties.
All right, this one is in...
I'm sorry, this is on Hyman Way, Valley Springs.
Okay. All right. Any public comments? Board comments? All right, let's have a motion, please.
Make a motion we approve.
Second. So I have a motion by Supervisor Kearney, second by Supervisor Wright. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And number 27.
Last one, involving property on Warren Road in Burson. Been going on since 2007. As-built structures on the property, things built without the required permits. Permits obtained, reinstated 2 different times, and since that second time, since August 29th since about 2009, they've just been totally ignoring us, won't reply.
Okay. Public comments? Board comments?
Make a motion to approve.
Second the motion.
All right, so I have a motion by Supervisor Ponte and a second by Supervisor Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Public Works introduced the attached ordinance establishing guidelines for advertising on Calaveras transit vehicles and shelters.
I'm Deborah Mullen, Public Works, Calaveras Transit. This is an ordinance to regulate advertising that we sell space on transit buses, and we intend to sell some space on some of the bus shelters to earn revenue for the county. And because this is on county property, it requires that it be governed by an ordinance. It is essentially the same policy that you approved in January. We've just rewritten it into the ordinance format with some adjustments for clarity and defensibility. Anybody have any questions? The cost of the advertising space is separate from the ordinance so that we can address that by resolution separately. And I do intend to come back with some changes to the fee schedule after we've received the vans, because that will be a kind of a new kind of space and have to rethink how we want to sell the space on. And I'm so disappointed that nobody took the flyers.
I'm sorry, I have one at home already.
Okay.
Yeah, I have
I've
one
been
here.
promoting it
Post
also.
and share.
Thank you, Deborah.
So did I understand this right then? So we're not establishing the fee schedule in this ordinance?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's just
Is it FYI then?
attached for your information.
Okay.
Yeah, in case there's any
All right.
questions.
Thanks, Deborah. Any public comments on this item? Okay, any board comments? You're almost too late, George, but it's okay.
Thank you for the reprieve. I just picked up outside your the agenda, this packet, and I'm very impressed with what the Public Works Department's doing, the recycling, public outreach, and what have you. You folks have probably got that. And I think the Public Works Department is doing an outstanding job.
That's actually our next,
That's the next one.
agenda item. That's our next agenda item. Thank you. But we got to agree with you anyhow, right? All right, so any board comments on this? Item number 28.
No, I think this is, just a good way to create additional revenue to help support the transit system. So many other transit systems do the same thing, so we're getting up to speed.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay. So we have a motion by Supervisor Kearney to approve, second by Supervisor Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's 4, 1 absence. Okay, so we're going to take a 10-minute break and allow Public Works to set up, and I will be stepping away from the chair position and offering the gavel over to Supervisor Wright because he's assistant chair, and he will be running the meeting from this point forward as I head up to Murphy's and give out these proclamations that we approved earlier this morning. So
we can take a time out and look at those hay bales,
yeah, I mean, we can go out there and look at the
pine needle bales.
pine needles if you want to. That'd be a really good idea. No smoking around them. So we're going to adjourn for 10 minutes. Thank you.
Bring the meeting back to order, and then turn it over to Jeff from Public Works. I turned it over to you already.
I missed that. Thank you very much. Okay, Jeff Krovitz, Department of Public Works. I'm your director. We've done a few of these State of Public Works, and I've been taking it on division by division. This one, unfortunately, is one of the more painful ones that we're going to face, and I pushed the pain towards the end of these presentations. So they get worse from here. That's warning number 1.
Thanks, Jeff.
But the one thing I can say about IWM that I can't say about some of my other divisions is I do have a fixed stream of revenue. And it all comes down to the dollars. So as I get into this, please feel free to stop me, anyone up on the dais, at any time with questions so we can discuss it rather than push it on. It's going to take us a little bit of time, but we've got some time. Try to get you out by a decent hour for lunch, and we'll go through this thing. Okay, so we've done transit, and you can start to see the results that buses are being purchased. We're moving ahead. We've done some funding sessions. We've done some purchasing. We did get verified that we have over $1 million in the ISTMEA grant. Is that how you say it? So while we may not be operating as close to the black as we hope, we are at least operating and operating fairly well. We've talked about Equipment Service Center, talked about road and bridges operations and where we're at with our funding there, including the Development Services Surveyor portion. We talked about engineering CIP. We look good for the next 6 to 8 years. After that, all bets are off. Maybe that doesn't worry those of you who are in their first term or near the end of the first term. Today we're doing integrated waste management. So here's a picture of a couple of our employees. The young one is a daughter of an employee at the county fair this year with the recycling booth for Calaveras Recycles. We have a very aggressive outreach program for recycling. For those of you who don't understand or don't know it, recycling is mandatory by state law. We were to have met a 50% diversion goal of our total flow by 2005, which we missed, but we are there now. There's a 75% diversion goal coming in 2018. With the ultimate goal of no recyclables within your solid waste stream going to a landfill by 2020. Here's a pretty picture for you, the Rock Creek Cell A, Phase 1. It's closed. It's a green picture from the springtime, so you can see the grasses, and under that is our mountain of garbage from Cell 1 out at Rock Creek. Okay, so what do we do in integrated waste management? Obviously, we take care of waste collection and disposal. That has a couple of streams. We have a private contractor who actually goes around and does a voluntary collection. He has accounts, collects, trucks it, takes care of recycling, brings the solid waste to the landfill, brings the green waste to the landfill, as well as allowing citizens and businesses to bring all waste streams to our transfer stations and our landfill. We run recycling services. We also manage the recycling services of our public-private partnerships. We do litter removal in and around our facilities. MRF, Materials Recycling Facility. We have a materials recycling facility at the Rock Creek landfill where you sort your waste flows, diverting out your recyclables. We haul the recyclable materials to various recyclers. This hauling could include hauling to cogeneration plants for waste-to-energy streams, tires to Stockton, many other things we haul. We haul the recyclables out of our MRF facility at Rock Creek into Valley Springs, where they are segregated, separated, and then resold on the commodities market for recyclable materials. We operate public education. We maintain compliance with regulations to the best of our ability. We'll talk a little bit more about this in a little while. We collect yard waste and we process yard waste. That is one of our main areas of problem for IMF, Integrated Waste Management, IWF. We also manage our landfill sequencing plan. We have permit on our original environmental document, which was an EIR, to permit our next cells. We have more room for landfilling, but the specifics of the next cell have not been dealt with. We haven't put together the capital project for the opening of the next cell. This is becoming a very high priority. If we do continue with our current operations, we will fill our current cell potentially within 3 years to 3.5 years. Just to let you know, it will take me about 3 years to complete a capital project to open a new cell, which is why this must start today. Here's phase 3 and the current borrow area of the landfill. You see the rather large tractor on the hillside. You can see the face of the current fill to the left of the tractor. You can see the liner, which is a liner that hopes to keep toxins out of the groundwater as much as possible. And, of course, it's a series of cut and filling while we're filling this valley out at Rock Creek. For those of you who haven't been there, we invite you to take the tour. We'd love to have you. It's a well-run, clean, well-operated facility with a lot of room around it. Okay, there's more things that we do as part of integrated waste management. We maintain our facilities at 7 transfer stations. Some of you might stop me here and say, well, whoa, we only have 6 transfer stations. No, we have 7. We have 2 transfer stations at the former Red Hill landfill facility, one of which takes garbage and recyclables, cardboard, bottles, cans. And then we have the Red Hill Annex, and the Red Hill Annex takes batteries, oils, paints, so more of the household hazardous waste. It takes a large volume of pine needles. It takes a large volume of green waste. I'm separating those now by title because it works for me in the future. The Annex is the facility where we're processing a lot of green waste, or attempting to. Operation of green waste at 3 of the transfer stations. The Wiltseyville takes a large volume. It'll process about 10 to 20,000 cubic yards per year. The Copperopolis station, which processes a very small amount of green waste. And, of course, the Red Hill Annex, which has lately been overwhelmed over the last 3 to 4 years, where we could be taking up to 2,000 cubic yards of waste per day. And we're operating 4 days a week. That station has a volume limit of 10,000 cubic yards, so you can see that in a 4-day period of intense use, we can fill our complete volume that we can store at that facility before processing. And that is one of the primary reasons that I shut that transfer station down in the end of June. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get further into the presentation. Okay, coordination of professional services for environmental monitoring and reporting. This has to do with the closures that we have going on at the Red Hill facility and the closed cells that we have at the Rock Creek facility. We process hazardous waste and household hazardous waste. The landfill at Rock Creek is a Class 2 facility, so it takes certain level of pollutants, not the super hazardous ones. The super hazardous ones get trucked out, packaged and trucked out on pallets to facilities that can handle them, such as the facility down in Casmalia off of Highway 5 outside of Kettleman. We are taking chemical waste. We are processing, bundling, bagging those up, barreling those up, reporting, and hauling those off. Post-closure, maintenance and monitoring. So for the cells that we've got closed, we're monitoring methane gas emissions. We're monitoring the stability of the cells. We're providing annual reporting to various state agencies to make sure that we are operating within compliance. Post-closure landfill for a closed landfill. After the last cap has been placed and the seeding has been put in place, takes 30 years. So every day we have a 30-year window. Every day that we operate a landfill, we have a 30-year window before we can walk away. Contract oversight for waste collection and recycling services. These are some of our public-private partnerships that I'm going to talk about a little bit more. We have to maintain and administer those contracts. Here's a little GIS picture of our facilities, attempting to give you the size of them. For those of you who recognize the smaller ones, you'll recognize the Avery facility, the Copperopolis facility, the Paloma facility. The Red Hill is the large red splot at about 3 o'clock. San Andreas, you can see where San Andreas is, Wilseyville. Rock Creek is the large splot down central, southwestern edge of the county. That facility is made up of, I believe, 6 or 8 parcels and encompasses more than 1,000 acres. The current landfill facility in the center of that takes about 120 acres. And it's a separate parcel unto itself. Okay, next. I want to talk about our public-private partnership in terms of how we operate our facilities. The last several slides where I told you what we do, that's our own operations, the internal operations. External operations that are part of our integrated waste management deals with a lot of our private partners. One of our private partners is Cal Waste. They're here. And I'm hoping that they'll get a chance to get up and talk to you a little bit about how their operations are going. So, mandatory residential and commercial waste and recycling collection for City of Angels Camp. That's been put into place by the City Council. They provide services for residential and commercial curbside waste and recycling pickup. That's throughout the entire county. Want you to know that it is mandatory by state law that commercial have recycling. That's the law. Public outreach and education partner. They do a lot of outreach. They support our efforts at the county fair. They go to schools throughout the county. They've produced a number of videos. I know that they've invited members of the board to come to their facility, their materials recycling facility down in Galt. It's a pretty amazing facility. If you haven't done it, I think you'd enjoy it. It's quite an education. When you see the volume of waste coming in and then the volume of recycling going out, it's a very impressive operation, especially for how clean it operates. They've just received permission for Avery. Are we there yet or not quite there yet? Yeah. Okay. We're on the verge of, Cal Waste is on the verge of receiving a permit to open up a transfer facility in Arnold. I said Avery, my bad. That facility will take the contents of their collection in and around the Highway 4 corridor, bring it into the transfer station, segregate, separate, combine, and then use mass trucking, large volume trucking, down to the facility in Galt for separation and recycling, or for mass trucking down to Rock Creek for us to process into the landfill. That facility will also take green waste, and that will reduce some of the load that we're having at some of our other facilities. I hope it helps.
Is this different than their current location?
No, it's the same location, but got expansion on a couple of yards, and have done some capital improvements to help mechanize the bundling and the segregation of the collected waste streams.
Great.
Okay. And they can get up if you are curious about the details of their operation in terms of what they provide for weekly or biweekly or monthly pickup, curbside, as well as the deployment of their containers that are larger containers, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 cubic yard containers for various things, construction, demolition waste, forest waste, those types of things. Okay. They also act as a partner for deploying recycling containers for large events. They're the ones that provide the recycling containers and do the recycling at the county fair. So another of our partners, and I believe they're here today, Gamby. Gamby Disposal is responsible for recycling and waste operations at our seven transfer stations. They take care of waste and recycling transportation services from the transfer stations to Valley Springs Recycling or to the Rock Creek facility. They also provide on-contract trucking services for us for the hauling of tires and other waste to facilities so that we're not multiple handling of materials that we do not process at Rock Creek. Another one of our partners, Valley Springs Recycling, also in the audience, operates a full recycling facility in Valley Springs. That recycling facility has a public entrance for CRV recycling, for metals recycling, and then behind the facility operates a transfer station where they're taking the recyclables from our transfer stations hauled by Gamby. They segregate, sort, bundle, transport, resell on the market. Again, this is a commodities-based market, and so the prices that we receive from these recycling streams vary significantly. We've taken a number of hits recently. Just to give you an example, the value of recycled steel has been as high as $300 a ton. It's been as low as about $0.25 a ton, and I'm expecting it to hit about $90 a ton, where it no longer becomes profitable. It becomes a cost center as opposed to a potential profit center. Once it gets below that $90 a ton, is that about right, Jim? Once it gets below about $90 a ton, it becomes a recycling waste stream that must be subsidized if we're going to continue to handle it. Okay? Since it is recycling, we have prohibitions against it going into a landfill by 2018 or 2020. Which one is it? Paul? 2020. But that's Paul Ferriani. He's our local enforcement officer for the county. He represents Cal Recycle in terms of the management and the oversight of our operations and our permits at all of our facilities. So by 2020, recycling will not be allowed in the landfill. Okay? Neither will organics, other than dirt for cover or for daily cover. More work that Valley Springs Recycling does, processes the county transfer station recycling and processes the county recycling from the Rock Creek Materials Resource Facility. Private-public partnership number 3, we have contract with Tiger Lines. Tiger Lines does hauling, trucking hauling. They have large vehicles that can handle 100 cubic yards of waste in a single vehicle. They're hauling it wherever we want them to haul it. Gene Miller, up in Arnold, operates a green waste processing and diversion center. He takes a lot of pine needles, he takes a lot of forest waste, and a lot of green waste. He is also one of our partners. We have various other recyclers for diversions. We recycle tires, steel, clothing, and shoes. I don't know if you've noticed the bins that we've deployed throughout the county for clothing and shoes. We also have some new bins out for CDs and books and what were those things? VHS? Yes. And we also transport our clean green wood waste to Chinese Camp and Waste to Energy Plant. You'll be seeing all of these coming your way in terms of contracts, modifications of contracts, brand new contracts, all of that. All right. No questions yet, huh? I'm telling you everything you already know? Well, then maybe this is for me. Okay, so current project list. We do an annual yard waste amnesty day to encourage recycling and the hauling of yard waste where we don't charge for it. Public outreach at the county fair. Red Hill Annex green waste cleanup. That's what I guess we're calling the temporary closure of the green waste annex facility. We were overwhelmed. We had a notice of violation. We're nearing the end of the CAL FIRE mandatory clear your property away from your homes when you're living in the mountain communities or the fire communities. Red Hill landfill slide repair, which is scheduled to go into construction a week from today. We have to prepare the joint technical document for the Rock Creek, which is essentially a 5-year permit review. We are late with that, and so that becomes one of our highest priorities. Associated with that JTD is also what's called an NWD, or a non-water release, to make sure that when the tsunami comes, we don't flood the Rock Creek landfill. That's partially what it does. I know that sounds crazy, but it isn't. Rock Creek facility repairs. I've already forgotten what that was. The non-water release that I just noted to you. Red Hill cleanup and abatement order, which is cleaning up and keeping compliance with our closure plan. And then the recycling local implementation plan, which is a result of a compliance order that we were given due to our noncompliance with state mandatory regulations for recycling. I'm going to get into that in more detail in a little bit.
Has the old Red Hill landfill project been completed, where they were repairing the liner in the old landfills?
Yes, but we did have a slide. I believe the slide was 2013. Was it 2013 or 2014?
After the fire.
2013. So we had a slide on one of our closed cells where we lost vegetative cover, about a foot and a half of it, and it's taken until very recently for us to get a contract out for the repair of that. So we were under a notice of violation for having an open cell, not having the vegetative cover that was stabilized on it. So that construction contract will be going into effect next week. We expect it to be completed sometime in September, and hopefully we can remove that notice of violation and we'll have a stabilized fill once again. But we are operating or doing the monitoring, the measurements, the reporting that are annual for the Red Hill facility for the closed cells. We've got a number of ponds we're collecting and treating leachate. Within or on that facility, we also operate the 2 transfer stations, one for recyclables and waste, and the other one for the household hazardous waste, parts of it as well as the green waste. And that's what I'm terming the Red Hill Annex. So all of those operations are going on at Red Hill facility right now. Some of the operations and repair that I have to do at the Red Hill facility is I've got to keep the public out that like to run all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive vehicles, build fires, kind of party on, shoot bottles and cans and watermelons. I've got to keep them off that facility. So that's part of the cleanup that I need to do. And we'll be affecting that this year as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so successes. Yes, successes. We're taking approximately 85 tons per day of waste, 5,750 tons per year of green and yard waste. I'm not sure if that number is accurate. I think it's more than that, but I could be wrong. Diversion programs, 88 tons of carpet and padding, 180 tons of textiles in the first year. 4,700 tons of mixed recyclables. Mixed recyclables is when you have everything that's recyclable going into one mixed bucket, and that bucket then goes to some sort of a MRF, materials sorting facility, and then they get distributed out to various rebuyers, if I could say that. We have some new recycling programs that we've exited for medical devices and bicycles. Bicycles is one of our successful ones where we essentially pull old bicycles out of our stream and cannibalize the parts and rebuild bikes and give them to kids that need bicycles. Transfer stations remain popular for drop-offs, which is both a very, very large benefit to the county, but it's also somewhat problematic when I talk to you about regulatory compliance and what's coming down the road that we have to face up to. Household hazardous waste collection events. We do a number of events where we encourage household hazardous waste collection. We gathered 18 tons in 2014. Robert Pettinger, my Deputy Director of Public Works, has helped to reconstitute the Solid Waste Task Force. We are now meeting monthly, and I think that will be very beneficial in terms of getting reports coming back to board, people to help you do your work, and Supervisor Kearney is there every meeting. He's a terrific help, so I think this is a benefit in terms of where we're trying to go. Okay, so I know this looks like a very basic kind of a slide, and this is kind of a story that's been told on a number of occasions. When I started poking through the drive where we store all of our historic electronic files, I see that there have been a number of presentations in front of the Board of Supervisors. I'm sure that Ms. Ryan remembers these. But the bottom line here is that our expenditures are continuing to rise. Our revenues are flat. And the reason I say the revenues are flat, even though we get more money in recyclables, we pay more in fuel to move the recyclables around. Our cost for employees continues to rise in terms of medical costs, inflationary type of costs, COLA costs. The costs for our private public partnerships continue to go up as they get their cost of living increases as they operate over time through long-term contracts. And I want to talk a little bit about that in a minute, if I can. But the bottom line is that we get $150 residential parcel equivalent that we collect. It goes up when you own a commercial parcel or a very large parcel that's subdivided. But regardless, that's our base unit for our parcels. And these are for developed parcels only. We do not collect fees for undeveloped parcels, nor do we allow undeveloped parcels to bring their material to our facilities without gate fees. And that's something that I think we need to discuss, that I'll discuss with the task force before we bring back modifications to our ordinance. But here's the bad news. We're continuing to operate at a deficit. Now, when I mean deficit, what does that mean? It means that we are borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. We're not borrowing out of the general fund. We're borrowing out of our capital for the closure of existing landfill facilities and for the opening of new cells. We're borrowing out of that fund in order to operate, continue to fund our current operations. And I think that's bad form. It could put us into a world of hurt from a regulatory perspective as well as from an operational perspective. Some of the types of costs that we've seen increases. Some of the worst ones, personnel. Since 2003, our average increase in our personnel costs from 2003 to 2008, personnel costs went up 50%, over 50%. Our transfer station contracts, which also include hauling, which would be reflective of oil and fuels, gone up 40%. Gas and oil went up over almost 400%. Our yard and our wood contracts, so our green waste contracts, went up almost 700%. Our A87 costs, which is something that was on your consent agenda today, which is the cost that other departments charge the Department of Public Works for oversight and helping us with the operation of our IWM, the Auditor Controller's Office. Those costs have gone up 85%. And you look at it, you say, well, what's another $45,000? I think that was approved on consent today. When you add it up, starting in 2003, it is a fairly large hit. Supplies, just to handle our diversion of our recycling, those costs have gone up somewhere around 180%. So there's a lot of reasons why our operational costs have gone up. Regulatory, the regulations that institute mandatory behaviors for our operations have caused our costs to go up. Oil and gas and fuels for the transportation of these materials have gone up. The cost of labor has gone up, and that's both public labor and private labor have all gone up. And we're doing more. We're doing more. So the volume going into the landfill has climbed. The volume being diverted out of the landfill has climbed algebraically. Okay? The green waste that we're taking to our facilities has gone up exponentially. Hopefully you're starting to get the picture. Challenges. Okay.
Jeff, before you move on the staffing, you've got 3 listed, so I don't have to, I guess I'm being lazy, so I don't go back and double check it. Those are budgeted, they're just not filled?
That's correct. We've been attempting to fill those for a number of years and been having some difficulty. I'm working with the CAO's office about plans whereby we can staff these positions. Well, at least staff the first 2 positions. So we haven't had an integrated waste manager since September of 2013. We've had no integrated waste management operations supervisor since 2014. Without those leadership roles out there, it creates further problems in terms of managing and monitoring the daily operations as well as personnel. Without that type of leadership, things happen in a vacuum that are less than desirable. So I'll just leave it at that. We've been down 1 maintenance worker since June of 2014. We do not have staffing available to provide the required operations to treat our green waste. So we do that on a catch-as-catch-can basis. So that's why you can go down to Rock Creek anywhere between February and the end of June, and you will see a mountain larger than this building of green waste because they haven't had time to process it. We don't have the staffing to process that. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. We have insufficient staffing to provide our succession planning, our succession training. Many of the operations that go on as part of IWM require skill, whether it be skill to run a grader or a bulldozer or a compactor, or skill to operate a grinder or a tub grinder for the processing of green waste, or whether it's a manager that manages our recycling programs. It doesn't matter. These are highly skilled, highly trained positions. And so it's important that we have a succession plan in place so that we can have younger people being trained to be able to handle and move up into these positions. And right now, we have no succession plan. Without a succession plan, resilience, long-term resilience of the program is at risk. More challenges. You notice I didn't put them all on one sheet? I couldn't read them either. Funding. These are the funding challenges. Our operating costs have increased with revenue remaining relatively flat. Inadequate funding for landfill cell closures and future cell openings. That's the borrowing from the future to fund current operations. Not all recycling and diversion streams have cost recovery. We have many of these streams, for example, tires and large furniture and mattresses, which were not included in the ordinance that was written in 1990 and revised in 1997, I believe, for cost recovery on these streams. And so those are essentially free streams that are going into either our landfill or our diversion operations for which we have no cost recovery. Okay? The parcel fee appears insufficient to accommodate green waste and recycling processing. Appears, you notice I couched my bet by saying it only appears this way. I don't know yet. I do not have enough data yet. But we expect to have the data later in this year to know what these operations actually cost us. Other challenges. Operations. The methodologies that we have for treating green waste are undefined, insufficient, and have essentially organically grown as somewhat haphazard. So they don't work very well. I don't know if anybody was out at the annex at Red Hill anytime between February and June. You would understand what I'm talking about immediately. Green waste demands are overwhelming our current staffing. The lack of equipment prevents efficient processing of our green waste. We're attempting to process volumes of green waste without the proper equipment. It's kind of like trying to take all your green waste and your household waste to the dump in a Miata. Doesn't work that well. Okay, more challenges. Regulatory compliance. Just making sure that nobody's getting out a rope back behind me or a gun for me. Regulatory compliance. Recycling programs are not yet compliant with CalRecycle regulations. That's why we're operating under a compliance order. Okay? We need to expand our public outreach and our education. We're not doing a good enough job. One of the reasons that I know that we're not doing a good enough job is because I can go to our transfer stations and I can see recycling with CRV value going into the trash hoppers. Okay? That's got to stop. And those that don't want to stop doing that, I think should help fund the cost of handling these materials. Because we have to handle these materials, the mixed waste stream where you've got essentially landfillable materials and recycled materials in one hopper. It takes a number of people to segregate those out into various bins and then get those bins transferred to Valley Springs Recycling before they can be distributed on the commodities market. That's got to stop. Landfill space is too valuable, and the cost of segregation is too high. We have new regulations and requirements for stormwater that increase our costs, increases our work, and increases our reporting. Okay? These are direct outcomes of, I believe it was the Clean Water Act passed, maybe County Council remembers when the Clean Water Act passed, federal government, was it in 88, 92, somewhere in there? Our solid waste fee that was put into place in 1990 is based on waste generation rates that were determined in the 1990s. The waste generation rates, the constituency of what we put into our waste stream are significantly different than what was in our waste stream in 1990. We need to look at that again. We need to be able to build our ordinance for our waste stream and the constituency of that waste stream to be flexible to change with times. Because we will be seeing massive changes as time goes on, just as we've seen massive changes since 1990. Okay? We can't continue to operate under a 25-year-old ordinance. Okay, where are we at with our current regulatory compliance with our integrated waste management? We have our local enforcement agency who has given us a number of notice of violations. We were given a notice of violation this month for out-of-county spent recyclables being returned to the Rock Creek facility. That will require a board action to accept these. These are essentially the spent recyclables, or those recyclables which are not recyclable, in the Cal Waste stream from curbside recycling that go to Galt, where the recyclables are segregated out and processed on the commodities market. The remainder is coming back to Rock Creek. It would have come to us if the materials recycling facility was located, for example, in Valley Springs, and it wouldn't have been a problem. The problem was that it was transported to Galt, which is out of the county, and then it gets transported back to Rock Creek. So we will need board permission to allow that operation to continue. I will be back with a MOU for that operation as quickly as I can. We've gotten a notice of violation for trash at Rock Creek. This has happened on a number of occasions. It's a symptom of a lack of staff to be able to maintain the facility. Essentially, everyone who works at Rock Creek is either in the office or they're on a piece of equipment. For them to be able to get off a piece of equipment, run around, pick up trash that gets blown off of the landfill face or out of somebody's truck or in a pile waiting to be processed is beyond staffing capabilities. Mr. Pettinger and I are working on a solution to that using... Thank you. Well, he was out there on Monday at Pettinger Road. I'm sorry. For a job well done, by the way. But thank you. So Mr. Packinger and I are putting together a program where we're using probation people to get out of the landfill for trash pickup. So we can remove that NOV. The report, which I talked about before, the Non-Water Release Act report, that's due hopefully by October of 15, or hopefully we can complete it by October of 15. Okay. More regulatory compliance. That was our local enforcement agency portion of it. Did I miss any, Paul? Okay. Okay, so we also have regulatory compliance from Cal Recycle. That used to be the Integrated Waste Management Board at the state. We have a compliance order for recycling. We've put together a recycling local implementation plan. We have to complete that by December of this year. Okay? And there's a number of things that have been put into place but haven't actually been realized. And so that is part of my duty to make sure in the next 5 months that those plans that have been put together get implemented, so that by December of 2015 we are in full compliance with our local implementation plan, and then it just becomes a matter of 12 more months of babysitting. Regional Water Quality Control Board, orders, reports, and violations. We have a Red Hill landfill slide repair cleanup, which I talked about going into construction next week. Construction and demolition waste at Rock Creek, we need to clean that up, and I've got a plan for what we're going to do with that. That's going to be your asphalt, your concrete, those are the main ones that we've got a notice that we need to clean up. We have large piles of concrete and asphalt that we need to process. And we also don't feel that that stuff should be going into the landfill. It has too much value for us to go into the landfill. But it's sitting in a pile in the wrong location, so we've got to deal with it. Stormwater run-on, run-off controls at Rock Creek. We need to make sure we're not mixing stormwater with our landfills, because the water flowing out of a landfill is polluted. If we can keep our stormwater out of it, we are not adding to an existing problem. Air Quality Control Board, another one of our masters. We have to complete our 2014 methane reports. They were not done complete, and they require additional information. So we're working with several of our consultants, as well as the Air Quality Control Board, to complete that reporting. There was a change in consultants doing the measurements and the reporting in 2014, and I think that created part of this issue. Okay, AB 32, pending compliance with air quality conformance. We will be required to make sure that our entire integrated waste management system complies with air quality requirements within the county. I think most of you know that Calaveras County is what's considered to be a non-attainment county, meaning that it does not meet air quality conformance requirements through no fault of our own. It's pretty much what blows our way. And therefore, it means that we operate under a higher level of compliance because we are a non-compliant county. Without putting too much finesse on this, we are running more than 500,000 trips annually to our facilities. Some of those represent a victory or a success in terms of air quality compliance. For example, the Wiltseyville transfer station. We have the residents in the area of Wiltseyville. They're bringing all of their materials to the transfer station. We're processing, combining, and then we're taking large volume, transporting it down either to Valley Springs or to Rock Creek. That represents a success. That reduces the particulate matter going into the air. However, the number of trips that we have going to our Rock Creek facility from the county, say people hauling from Arnold, that does not represent a victory necessarily in terms of compliance with AB 32. Now, I don't know what the state will hit us up with, but I can guarantee that we will be given some notification from the state within the next 3 years that we need to clean up our act. So that's just to let you know what's coming. Okay, so you've heard a bunch about challenges. How do we address the challenges? When I was in school getting my engineering degree, I had a senior advisor. His name was Sam Vigil. He was a PhD graduate out of UC Davis. He was also a disciple of a gentleman by the name of George Chabangelis. I don't know if anyone has heard of George Chabangelis. He still teaches. He's still around. But he was one of the pioneers in the state of California in terms of on-site waste disposal. That would be septic systems. He's been a pioneer in solid waste, which is garbage. One of my assignments that I was given in school was to design a materials recycling facility with 4 other students in the engineering department for Mr. Vigil. And he used to get up on his bully pulpit and show me photographs of him working on his master's thesis. His master's thesis was taking on a mountain of garbage in Manila, in the Philippines, and teaching them how to divert, recycle, segregate, compost, whatever. And I've been to the Philippines, and it's a very hot and humid place. And so imagine all this green waste and this mountain of garbage, and a nice little PhD student running around on top of this pile of garbage that's probably 5 or 6 stories high. And he would get up there and raise his hands, and he'd say, I can still remember it, "It may be garbage to you, but it's my bread and butter." So that story is to let you know that we have some decisions to make. And the very first decision is, what do we want to do with integrated waste management? Do we want to stay in this business, or do we want to get out of this business? If we want to stay in this business, we've got to change how we operate. Okay? If we want to get out of this business, then we better make sure we have enough money to get out of this business and meet our regulatory requirements for the next 30 years. Okay? As I move on with addressing these challenges, I'm moving on with the assumption that we want to stay in this business and we want to continue to provide these services to our residents. Because I think we're uniquely positioned. We're one of the few rural counties that operates a Class 2 facility, Class 2 landfill facility. I know that we're one of the few rural counties that's operating 7 transfer stations. Whether you want to call it 7 or 6 doesn't matter to me. But we do have a very, I think, good integrated waste management system, but it needs to get better. So as I go through these addressing the challenges, I'm addressing these challenges under the assumption that we're going to continue to stay in this business. Unless anybody wants to stop me here. Okay, let's go on. Let's address some challenges. We obviously need to have some strategic planning, and the first portion of the strategic planning is the implementation of zero waste goals. Zero waste goals says the goal is that zero waste goes into the landfill. And I'll talk more about what these goals are and how you achieve those goals. Okay? And why it's so important to have that as the overarching goal for our system. Okay? Next, we need to treat and divert our green waste. We're not allowed to be running green waste into our landfill facility after 2020. We might as well start now. The value of the space, the airspace that will become future landfill is too high for us to be putting organics into that space. You all got a chance to get out on the plaza and look at that 2 cubic yard bale of pine needles. Maybe? That's a very dirty bale. It's mostly pine needles. It's got a couple of sticks of wood in there. It's got some assorted garbage in there. Could be recycling. I'm bummed that they picked out the garbage and the recycling to make it look like more of a pine needle bale than what it looked like when it came out of the baler, because I want you to see what it looks like. It also has a lot of dirt and rock in it. So that's a dirty bale of pine needles. It's 2 cubic yards, and it's compressed. If we cut the bands on that, it would be closer to 5 cubic yards. 5 cubic yards in an airspace, or let's just pretend it was compressed as tight as that 1,000-pound bale is compressed into our landfill, whether it be alternative daily cover or landfill volume. That 2 cubic yards has a value anywhere between $1,600 a cubic yard and $5,000 a cubic yard. What we charge for tipping of a 2 cubic yard green waste truckload, which would be half of that bale unbound, $8. $8. Okay? That's a far cry from the $1,600 value, and that's the bottom line value, or $5,000, which is an upper end value of that airspace. That's one of the reasons green waste must be removed from our landfill. And for every dollar and every cubic yard we remove from our landfill space, we are saving anywhere from the $1,600 to $5,000 in future costs for that landfill volume. So that to me is our number one priority. I'm having arguments with some of my other constituents, consultants, and other staff members. To me, my number one is treat and divert the green waste. But we'll keep going. We need to define the cost, the size, and deployment schedule for the Phase 2 landfill cell at Rock Creek. That is required as part of our JTD. That's going to be happening within the next several months. That will give me the ability to come back and say, hey, we've got so many years left in our current cell. It's going to take me so many years to permit the next cell. This next cell will last for so long. This is what it's going to cost. It's going to cost me this many dollars to be able to close that when we fill it up for the 30 years beyond that. So that gives you hard numbers of what must go into the bank account and what it will cost us to get the next cell ready to go. If we continue to put the green waste into our landfill at the rate we're doing, we will probably run out of space before 2020. Just to let you know. Okay, we need to create a system and a program to stay up to date on laws and regulations with a committed schedule for the implementation of those changes. And believe me, in my career, it's easier to implement in advance of the regulation than it is to crawl out from under notice of violations, compliance orders, cease and desist orders, cleanup and abatement orders. When those happen, it takes, for example, a slide at Red Hill that I could have fixed for $30,000 to $40,000 and makes it a $150,000 project. There is a cost to delay, and there is a cost to neglect. We need to fully implement the current programs that we have designed already. And they must be in accordance with permits, our current ordinance, our current resolutions, and our current policies. We are not operating that way today. Okay? I am sure that everybody up on the board got a lot of calls from me in early April when I insisted on mandatory ID checks at all transfer stations. That's written in the ordinance. We've got to do that. We need to utilize the Solid Waste Task Force and consultants to provide strategic planning for future operations. Several members of our task force are in the audience right now. Raise your hands. Jim, Mark, Cal Recycle is on it. Rudy Vaccarezza is our current chair of the Solid Waste Task Force. We will be having our next task force meeting next Monday. If anybody wants to attend, it starts at 4:30, does it, Robert? 4:30 here. Is that on your schedule, Supervisor Kearney?
Yep.
Great. Let's see if I'm missing anything. Yeah. I haven't talked anything about raising our solid waste. Is that a fee or is that a tax? It's a fee. It's a fee. It's a parcel fee. And I'm not going to talk about that yet because I don't have my arms wrapped around what our costs are, what our operation costs are, where we're at. But I will tell you that I know that I want to look at our ordinance and look at our gate fees because what we are charging for green waste is laughable. We're not charging anything for tires, large furniture, mattresses, those types of things. If we have these streams that cost us money to process, Chris?
I believe we are charging something for tires at some of the transfer stations. With rims, tires with rims.
Tires with rims, but not tires off of rims.
And I'm not sure if there might be a limit of tires, and then after a certain limit there's a cost. So there is some charge happening with tires.
There is some charge, but it's not anywhere near recovery.
Yeah, and that brings up an important point, though, that we always have this balance between recovering the cost and actually getting the waste out of the hillsides and off of the roads and the backwoods and into the recycling facilities and where they need to be going. You start to increase those charges. What you're going to do is end up you need to look at that carefully, as I'm sure you realize, because you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by, charging $25 for the recycling of certain appliances. That was implemented a few years ago. Almost immediately, I saw, in my community, there was refrigerators and washer dryers, et cetera, just dropped on the side of the road, and that ends up costing the county even more at that point. So you really have to look at, the cost-benefit analysis there, I think.
I couldn't agree with you more. But to let you know, we have a limit to the size of tires we will take. So the large tires, the large truck tires, we don't take. The passenger car tires, the small truck tires, we do take.
Yeah, the passenger, the large truck tires you almost never see on the side of the road, and at least in my experience, this is the passenger tires, that are a problem.
And there's a reason for that. The folks that have heavy equipment generally are much more responsible. So, but I can tell you, I live in a subdivision, 65-acre subdivision in Pollock Pines. Before it was split, one of the lots was an unofficial landfill that was used for decades as a landfill, as an unofficial landfill. And after the subdivision was created and the lot was formed, there was a lawsuit between the developer and the person who purchased the lot about the water and the stuff in the landfill and all that kind of stuff. That was one of the problems. The other problem was that once the lawsuit got resolved and a house was built on that parcel, and by the way, the well pumps clean water, so that's good, but that's the difference between what was put in a landfill in the 40s and 50s and what's put into a landfill today. Okay? We wouldn't have clean water pumping out of a monitoring well adjacent to a landfill cell today. Okay? But the biggest problem with having an unofficial or an official landfill along the side of a road is that it takes decades of vigilance to keep the people who learn to go to this landfill, this unofficial landfill, and dump. Or if you have people that believe that it's okay to dump a tire or a washer or a dryer along the side of the road.
What I'm saying is they don't have the money to pay the $25. So there's, they have to get rid of the washer, so they go drop it off, or they don't want to, they don't want to pay it. They think it's cost prohibitive. They'd rather spend money on other items or whatever. So it's just one of those things, like to look at the actual cost of, to the county if you increase that problem. If you add too much to the gate fees, then you're going to create maybe unintended consequences.
I agree with you. There has to be a balance. Gate fees have to be low enough that people will use them, yet they have to be high enough so that we at least have the ability to do cost recovery. There's other issues with the ordinance that I don't want to talk about right now. If we have a study session, I'd be more than willing to talk about. But I will talk a little bit more toward the end of the presentation about how we achieve the zero waste goals and how we handle one of the issues that you're speaking about is what happens to the families that can't afford a tipping fee but have waste to dispose of. Okay. So, where was I? I think I'm down there. I think I'm done with this slide.
Peter, go ahead.
As a customer, we already pay for tires that we leave off at the station. Buy a new tire, it's $1.50, $2. Who gets that money? Is there any way that gets that money?
And can you repeat the question?
I'll repeat the question. Peter Race? Okay. Ask the question. When you purchase brand new tires from a supplier, you pay a waste fee for those tires. Where does that fee go, and what can we do? Can we tap into that? That fee is collected by the state, by Cal Recycle, and they use that fee to help implement tire recycling programs. And there are a number of tire recycling programs. There's a number of manufacturers that take waste tires, grind them into pieces, and then those pieces get mixed into asphalt and goes into road overlays. And that makes a roadway much more quiet and much more flexible when you live in an area like Calaveras County where we have significant weather changes within 4 to 5 hours, where you're going from 45 degrees in the morning to 100 degrees in the afternoon. Those roads will crack up. If you mix that asphalt with ground tires,
but that money
much more flexible.
That money's not put aside to deal with the issue we were talking about.
Not yet, it's not. And believe me, and one of the reasons is that I don't believe that there's enough money collected as part of that program to be able to divert for, say, a low-income supplement. Okay? And we pay those fees everywhere. When we buy a new computer monitor, we're paying a waste fee. And that's part of this zero waste goals, and I'll talk about that when we get there. All right? Okay, so I'm still addressing challenges. This is the challenge of revenue versus cost. We need to complete the analysis of our cost of our operations versus our income. Okay? Maybe I shouldn't have used income. Maybe I should use revenue. That's probably a better term. Kelly will probably beat me up for it later. We need to ensure that savings into our account are adequate to fund future capital projects and equipment replacement. I didn't mention this, but we have no fund that we are building or saving right now for the replacement of our equipment. And our equipment is expensive. For us to spend $150,000 on a steel sheep's foot compactor that builds the face of that fill, that's nothing. Or $150,000 on a tub grinder that gives us the ability to throw a full stump into the tub grinder and turn it into chips. Okay? You're going to be seeing some of these because we have to get this under control and we have to budget because that is part of the cost of our operations. Okay. We need to build spending flexibility and resources to meet a changing regulatory environment. If it takes us 2 years to go through and research and purchase to respond to a notice of violation, that doesn't help us, or even 6 months or 9 months. We need to have a streamlined method of responding to regulatory changes, notice of violations, compliance orders quickly. And I don't necessarily want to make a practice of coming to the Board of Supervisors and getting them to make a finding of emergency. I don't believe that's the way that we should operate. We should be smart enough to be able to predict, prepare, and implement. Programs, I think the last one, yeah. Develop program. No, back. I actually have one more that I've added today. Develop programs to help meet future goals. We've been talking about this all along, and that could just as easily be a future look ahead that I had on the previous 2 slides previous. The last bullet I added to this slide that I don't have because I added it today was we need to ensure that our savings are sufficient to fund the cell closure And the cell closures include monitoring, reporting, stabilization for 30 years. We need to cost out 30 years. If we don't, we're fooling ourselves. Okay, let's address some more challenges. Starting to get into some a little better news here. So, green waste. Green waste. Green waste is what's killing us. Green waste could help us. Green waste, commercial opportunities. There are opportunities for revenue. I don't want to give you the idea that the revenue for green waste will ever overcome the cost of its processing. It's similar to what I said about transit a couple of months ago. There is no transit system that doesn't operate with a public subsidy. I don't believe that there's a green waste commercial opportunity that isn't going to operate without a public subsidy. But when you compare it to the cost of a landfill, it's going to be worth it. And it's the right thing to do. So, what kind of commercial opportunities are available to us? Diversion of green waste for landfill reduction. You will see in the next budget cycle that we will be putting in the value of our landfill airspace as a, what do we call it, Kelly? The landfill space? It's a asset. It will be a capital asset. So you will start to see that, and we will be able to track it, because that asset over time will be degrading. And so that needs to be part of our budget, and it never has been before. Composting green waste for reuse and recycle. We are going to be opening up, if we continue to stay in this business, we will be opening up a composting, at least one composting facility, maybe more than one composting facility. Okay? We will have to do that. Package and repurpose green waste to resell. That's something else. We're going to be doing that. Perhaps there is a use for those pine needles in that bale. I don't know. We have to look at it. Use waste to generate electricity, utilizing green waste and methane. Methane is one of the products of a landfill, closed cell, and it is also the second largest producer of greenhouse gases within this country. Green waste, go back a slide, Kelly. No, to green waste, to the green waste slide. Here we go. The economics of green waste. I just want to talk to you about that real briefly. I talked about bringing in a truckload, let's pretend a truckload of green waste is 2 cubic yards, for which we charge $8 at our facility. The cost of the landfill space for 2 cubic yards could be anywhere from $1,600 to $5,000 per cubic yard. And I'm not sure that those costs include 30 years of closure. Paul? They do include 30 years of closure. Okay. So I just wanted to reiterate that we need to change our thinking a little bit so that the value of our landfill is considered in the cost of our operations. If you don't include the value of our landfill in the cost of our operations, then you end up without enough staff to operate, without enough equipment to operate, without a capital program to replace your equipment to ensure that your operations are both efficient and continuing and resilient for the changes of the future needs. Okay? Next slide. Future plans. Is this getting really long? Is everybody doing okay? Do we need to take a stretch break, 7th inning? Or keep going?
How much more do you have?
I don't know. 3 or 4 hours? No, I'm kidding. Just a few more pages. Okay? Okay. Future plans. Research ways to increase productivity and profitability. That's obvious. But that's going to come at a cost. It's going to come at a cost of staff. It's going to come at a cost of equipment. And it's probably going to come at a cost of expanding our public-private partnerships to be able to do this. Okay? Fully address Cal Recycle compliance order. Got to do that. Completion of Red Hill slide repair. Got to do that. Balance the work product with the staffing. We're putting together a staffing plan so that when we come back to you with the final budget, there will be some changes in our staffing plan that I'm going to ask you to consider. Okay? Increase outreach and public awareness and education. We've got to do that because we've got to get the recyclables out of the garbage. Expand methodologies for handling green waste. And one way that we have to do that is to implement the food waste and organics composting. You recall that I asked you to approve a resolution that excluded us for 5 years from the food waste processing requirement that is a current regulation. And the reason I asked for it is because we were in no way ready to handle it. And we need that 5 years to set up our own program that meets the intent of the law so that by the time our exemption ends, we're rocking and rolling without complaint to the state.
That's food waste.
That's food waste. Okay. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the food waste is the food waste coming out of commercial facilities that needs to get out of the landfill. We have to have a way of collecting that, separating it, and composting it. Okay. I added this because it was a sneaky way of getting it in front of you. This is a adopted resolution by the U.S. Conference of Mayors 2015, and it actually just happened, I think, a week and a half ago. That talks about zero waste. And the reason that I included this is because I wanted the board to start to understand what is meant by zero waste. So if everywhere in the next 5 or 6 pages, I'm not going to go through this page by page or detail by detail, I'm going to hit the highlights of it. Everywhere where it says city, just imagine it says Calaveras County. That'll help you. But one of the things that it says is that local government bears the operational and financial burdens of sustainable municipal solid waste management. Okay? And I think that's pretty important to understand. The board has the ability to set the rates. On the second page, under zero waste, there's a line in there that I happen to like. It says comprehensive solid waste management. Integrated waste management is meant to be this. You can't just look at what goes into a landfill. You can't just look at the bottles and the cans that you're pulling out of the stream. You've got to do a comprehensive look at it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. There is a lot in this zero waste policy that talks about the manufacturer's responsibility for waste reduction. And that's part of what we have going on when it was mentioned that there's a tire recycling fee. There's a cathode ray terminal, CRT tube, television fees, refrigerator fees, washing machine, dryers, large appliances. All of these have fees that help to implement this zero reduction. Okay? Manufacturer responsibility is beyond that. You're going to start to see manufacturers, such as fast food industry, getting hit harder and harder to attempt to reduce the amount of paper waste that is part of the packaging of the products. Because for me, it's annoying that, I can go in there and I can buy myself something off a dollar menu or 5 things if I'm really hungry, and I've spent $5 and I've got $6 worth of recycling in there. It's crazy. No, I don't eat that much fast food. I'm kidding. This zero waste policy also talks about methane. You'll see that at the bottom of that of the first page. This page, the third paragraph, is it right? Yes, third paragraph talks about what is our responsibility in terms of air quality as it relates to our comprehensive solid waste management. And that's what AB 32 is. That's been already implemented. Council's office, do you know when AB 32 hit the street? You know, okay. You'll get a chance. So, third page, there's something in there that I like in the second paragraph, sustainable municipal solid waste management. Same thing. The sustainability of our ability to manage our solid waste streams and our recycling streams and our green waste streams and the reduction of our fuel waste and our forest waste and our green waste is part of the resiliency that we need to build into our county. The more green waste we can handle, the lower our fire danger. Okay? And I know that Mr. Ace knows where he lives, that he's living in a tinderbox. And it only takes one match or one lightning strike to destroy his improvements. Am I right? Okay, next slide. In the middle of this slide, you see the blue bullet list? This is the Nationwide Council of Mayors hierarchy of zero waste. Their first bullet is to reduce waste, reduce the toxicity of that waste, reduce the consumption of that waste, and do product redesign so you reduce that waste. That's their first priority. Their second priority is repair, reuse, and donate everything that we can. That's within that waste stream. Okay? So we don't have to continue manufacturing new stuff. That's a change of thinking. That's a sea change in how we do it. For most of us, it's much cheaper for us to throw away our mobile phones and buy a new one, right? But there's a mandatory recycling fee now with mobile phones to help fund this type of stuff. And most of the mobile phones that you've recycled in the last several years are packaged and fixed and sent overseas to third world countries for their use. Okay? Third on their list is recycle. These other three things are above that in terms of the hierarchy. After recycling is composting. After composting is something called downcycle and beneficial reuse. Anybody know what that is? Because I don't. Repurposing. Good to see you, Dave. Okay, so that's repurposing. Waste-based energy is disposal. That's what's going on at these cogen plants. And by the way, I've built a number of cogen plants, and using the term cogen plant, where you're burning wood or organic waste to generate electricity, is an improper term. So I like to call them waste-to-energy plants. But that's down there on the list. I would like to do that as well. I'd like to go into the energy business. I think we have enough material in terms of a resource, and I think we have enough of a need. We've got literally hundreds of thousands of acres of overburdened forests that are waiting to burn. And I'd much rather burn it in a waste energy plant than in a catastrophic forest fire. Having gone through a number of them in El Dorado County, I don't want to go through more of them. Okay. Landfill waste as disposal. That's your last line. That's the last thing that we do. That's where the worst of the worst that can't be composted, recycled, reused, redirected, repurposed, resold, that's where they end up. And that space is just too valuable to be used for anything other than the worst of the worst. Okay? So at the bottom of this, notice that it says when they do the be here further resolved at the bottom of this, rights of local governments to enact ordinance that support strategies to reduce waste in their local communities. That is our right. And I almost think it's our responsibility. Next slide. The first paragraph talks about product minimization. That reduces the amount of waste and the packaging that goes into the process. The second paragraph talks about food waste. The third paragraph talks about tax incentives. Tax incentives. And that's also a tool or a fee incentive that we might be able to use if we're smart and creative. All right? Next slide. Hopefully that wasn't too painful for you.
Board comments? Questions?
I was going to impress you and just say I knew the date, but I actually looked it up. AB 32 was 2006.
And they haven't really gotten around to writing the rules for how that's going to be implemented.
Yeah, there's a whole other group of searches that are saying exactly what you just said.
Yeah. I expect, talking to the Regional Water Quality Control Board, our enforcement agent from Central Valley, that says that there are a set of rules and regulations for composting facilities that are in consideration right now for adoption by the Water Board, the State Water Board. He anticipates that those things will be adopted by December of this year. Once those are adopted, if we are positioned correctly, we can get a permit to operate a composting facility within 12 months. So I would like to be there then. That says that the goal is that December of 2016, we're in the composting business. Okay?
How would we resell that? Have you gotten that far in your thinking?
Nope.
In bulk? Or?
No, I'm kind of field of dreaming it right now. Right now, I'm hoping that if I have a good, high-quality compost that people will want, why wouldn't one be driving down to the landfill facility to drop off their waste and recycling and pick up a truckload of compost to take home, to put on their garden? Should be that way.
And I don't know if you can answer this question or not, because I brought up the methane mining several times, and I kind of get the thought that we don't have enough of it out there to mine it. But what if it was combined with something else in burning of what we do have?
Well, it's true. The methane that we're producing on our closed cell 1 essentially is collected in a pipe system, an underground pipe system, and then transported over to a flame where it's actually burned in a flame. And the flame doesn't burn until you have enough volume stored. I would like to capture that methane and redirect it to use for part of my burning operations. The first part of my burning operations would be the deployment of an air curtain burner. But it would be an air curtain burner that has a waste-to-energy electrical production on it, just to see what kind of generation we get. So for every pound of waste that we're burning with our constituent, which is going to be pine needles and green waste and yard waste, potentially food waste, but I doubt food waste. For every pound that goes in, what do we get out in terms of kilowatt produced? And that way we can start predicting the size of a plant necessary for a sustainable yield for what we're generating annually. So if we're generating 8,000 tons of burnable green waste, what kind of energy can we expect? That's going to tell us, do we want to build a 0.5 megawatt plant, a 1 megawatt plant, a 2 megawatt plant? What's it going to be? But it makes sense to me that we run our own, but that's just me. And that's probably kind of selfish because I've worked on power plants before and they're kind of fun. Maybe we continue to bundle it, bale it like we've got right there into a burnable resource that then gets sold to the various waste energy plants that exist both north and south of us in Amador and Tuolumne. Okay? We're already selling our product to them, by the way, but it's loose. And they're not wanting to take our pine needles because pine needles unto themselves don't provide enough heat or enough value for them to put in their plant, and they're too dirty for them. That doesn't mean that we can't come up with a mix that will work for them. So for me to be able to come up with that, I need to work with my partners, my private partners, and we're there, we're working with them.
Right, and we discussed that. The other thing that I guess I never really picked up on, but you brought it up, Angels Camp has a mandatory trash pickup in the city.
Mm-hmm.
It does or does not?
It does not. It's voluntary at Angels.
So
the only thing that's mandatory in Angels is commercial. It's only mandatory by state law. It's not. Yes. Okay. Okay, so apparently curbside is voluntary.
Everywhere in the county.
Everywhere in the county.
Okay, good.
A couple things. You mentioned a little bit about your studying the cost analysis of what it's costing for all these budget units and projects. Any idea when you might have that completed and we're looking at a study session to really, nail in on some of these opportunities for work?
It's going to come in two pieces, or it's actually going to come in a number of pieces. First thing, of course, for me is I've got to get that MOU in front of you so that Cal Waste can operate legally and bring the spent recyclables back. Second thing, and it's a very, very high priority for me, is to get the Red Hill Annex fixed, repaired, and reopened. I do have several pages of what next. If you'd like me to go through that, I can. But in terms of what you're asking for is study sessions, yes, we will have a study session for you. I think it's going to be the fall. And that's really, but it's really going to delve into the current operations and maintenance of our system, our in-house portion of the system. Okay? So, how much of our monies are we spending on recycling? How much of our monies are we spending on treating green waste? How much of our monies are we spent on the landfill operations and the the MRF operations out at Rock Creek? How much money are we spending on the closure operations at Red Hill? And then it's easy for us to know what we're spending on our private-public partnerships, our trucking, our operations of our transfer stations. That'll be in there as well. But I think the first thing is for us to get a handle on how we're actually operating.
Right.
Of that parcel fee, $140 of the $150 is theoretically appropriated to the operation of the landfill, and $10 per parcel is appropriated to the operation of our recycling. That's way out of whack. Okay? But it's still the same enterprise fund. So it doesn't really matter how we play it. We're paying for our total division operations. And the thing that's important to know is that we're borrowing from our future to pay for our current operations. And so things have got to change so that we quit doing that.
Right, right.
Okay?
And then the other question, what I see is staffing. I mean, you're missing some key personnel in that division and have for quite some time for a variety of different reasons. What do you see there as what do you need? Is it the pay scale? Is it the education level for that position? I mean, what is it that you need to be able to fill that position? I just find, when I looked at transit, and transit remained empty for several years, and we had contracted people handling it, and, leadership is just so critical for that. And I know that, you're new and figuring out who's who and what's what and that sort of thing, but in the short time you've been here, why do you see that we're not able to fill that position?
Well, first I've got to take exception that I'm new. I'm in a new fiscal year. I don't consider myself new anymore.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
So I'm not leaving on that. I'm not leaning on that anymore.
Okay.
I think that it's a combination of things. At the IWM manager position, I think most people have been afraid to take it on. Anybody who's smart and looks at our operations and look at where we're at wouldn't want to step into that. Okay? That's number one. So it's a combination between where we're at currently and what the pay scale is. I'm not necessarily convinced the pay scale is what's so out of whack. Okay? In terms of the operations supervisor, I actually think that there are ways to get that position filled. And there might have to be a slight adjustment in the pay scale on it, but it shouldn't have to be drastic. And in terms of filling out the workforce, the people that are actually in their boots on the ground, in the vests, those are easy to fill. They really are. But it takes a special kind of a person who's willing to work in that environment.
Right.
Because you have to not be bothered by the smell. Okay? And the smell of a solid waste or landfill operation, to some people is sweet, some people it's not. It's partially psychological, partially not. I don't have any worry about filling those positions. I really don't. The IWM manager, of course, the higher it is, the harder it is to fill. But I think we can do it, especially with support from the CAO's office.
All right, thank you.
Is that it?
Nice presentation. I mean, it's just very good overall. It's kind of leaving my head spinning, but.
Okay. I do have a what's next if you're interested, but it's a lot more specific.
Let's leave that for another time.
Another time.
Unless you guys want to go.
Well, I kind of lived with this stuff for the last few months, so it's not. I'll let you, both of you, make a decision on that one.
How hungry are you?
Let's just open it up to public comment then.
Okay.
Allison Gallant Taxpayer Association. That was a pretty thorough presentation. Good job for a new guy. Thinking out of the box a little bit, as a member of the public or taxpayers, it might be a good idea to focus on what the cost would be to get this in proper operation. And I think Debbie already asked that question. And then if it's possible to find out what the bottom line cost would be, the next question would be, does it need to be county run or county owned? There's a direction in solid waste facilities that they're moving towards being privately owned. And I think now the majority of them are, in the United States, are owned by the private sector. In the private sector, there's three major firms that do this sort of thing, and they do it on a regional basis. And so we would recommend finding out, if you can, what the cost would be to get this in proper operation. And then two, contact each of those three firms and see if there's any interest in what they would offer the to own and operate this facility. One of the things that is a consideration is California may be more stringent in its regulations than nationwide, and those figures I gave you were nationwide. But if it makes sense from the point of view of the taxpayer and the public, then that's what we ought to do, is to contract out and privatize. Not that you're not smart and you couldn't do a good job, but it might be to get those people involved that all they do is this. Thank you.
Rebecca Callan, Auditor Controller. There was a comment made earlier about the increase of the A87 costs, and I think that when you're going through your costs also, it's really important to make sure that you're demonstrating those internal costs as well, because your internal costs, which are your own indirect costs, have actually increased at a much higher rate than our A87 costs have. Since 2002, it was $110,000 for your internal costs, and it was $116,000 for our E87 costs. Today, for the 15-16 budget, it's $931,000 in internal costs and $213,000 for E87. So, part of that is a good thing because you're doing engineering chargebacks. There's capital, internal, use of staff as well, but the costs in general have just increased. And then also on the integrated waste manager, that position makes more than many of our department heads at the pay scale currently. It's a six-figure position. It's not a low-paid position by any means. And then I do agree with Al Segala on looking at the possibility of doing a privately ran solid waste. Mainly because we do spend so much money with private companies as well. I think last year we spent $1.2 million with Gamby alone. And the base costs were $1.1 million, and then we pay for the hauling on top of that. So a significant portion of our solid waste fees as it is going to private contracts anyway.
Thanks, Rebecca.
We're going to get along fine. You're getting there, okay? Just by coincidence, I was checking my emails, and one of the things, and this would take more than just waste management, but some of the other department staff you have. Sacramento County turns goats to clear overgrown brushes.
Say that again.
Sacramento County turns to goats to clear overgrown brushes. We have an opportunity in my neighborhood in the 5th District, the old stuff. Fire prevention, goat's milk, cheese, wine, tourists. That's one thing. The other thing I want to mention is that I was part of the promoting waste to energy back in Contra Costa County. I think it was in Martinez that they had it. And it got watered down because they had the refineries and whatever, okay? Patterson is just across the ditch over here going west. It's not too far. And they were more than happy to come out and visit on other occasions to show how they're doing it. Look at tires, and so on, and solid waste. Recycling. Recycling, the state is losing their pants, putting it bluntly, because it's very cheap. Right now we see all the bicyclists going around the county roads, pick up cans and bottles. This is the only bicycles I see. Okay? But they're picking up all that. A lot of people, it's garbage, they recycle it and go into Valley Spring to exchange for money. But where California is screwed up royally, they're not going to publicize it. There's people who go over to Nevada, they crush the cans and bring it back here. California losing their, you know what, because they're paying out more than what they're collecting. It would be nice to have a study to take advantage, in the 5th District especially. I'm not that familiar with the vegetation elsewhere.
30 seconds.
But to take advantage of what we have, a renewable source, money basically, that's what it boils down to. Take advantage of it. And with increase your property value, tourist, safety, environment. And I'm glad somebody's willing to working for the county to say, hey, there might be something we can work out with private and governmental agency. Thank you.
Jeff is laughing, and I think it's probably because I bring that goat thing up all the time.
Don't bring the goats.
And I haven't let it die either, so but they do eat Christmas trees and greenery. And, they don't? No. They eat that too, yeah.
Marty Crane. I've mentioned this before, but we've talked today about our partners and the public. Each one of us is a partner in this. And I just wanted to challenge everyone who is organizing an event to think about how you purchase, what you buy, how you set it up. At the last Kids Day, we had 2 bags of trash. Hundreds of people fed all the masses 2 bags of trash. One of them was nothing but paper recycling, the little paper boats. And to be honest, I don't know what was in the other one. But that was it. And it just takes a little thinking and figuring out and changing how we think about it. And so if we all help a little bit, then we can make a big impact. And I'd like to give a shout out to Cal Waste, one of our partners. They don't just partner in the way we've been talking about today. They are embedded in our communities, and we are currently doing a huge renovation at the Valley Springs Youth Center, ripping and tearing. And they brought a big dumpster for us, which we could not have done it without you. We're not finished yet. In the last maybe 3 weeks, there's over 350 volunteer hours of labor, help. What can I do? Lots of fun. And so if anybody wants to help, give me a call. Thank you.
Any other public comments? All right. So
I'll be brief. And just several things come to mind when I'm hearing things here. And I just want to, I think you raised the point, Chris, that if you get things too spendy, then people will avoid doing them. Okay? So while the goal of zero everything is a great one to strive to, there is an economic cost. And I think sometimes across the board, government agencies think that they can always pass that cost on to ultimately the consumer or the business or the landlord and up the ladder. And I just want to point out from my own personal experience, okay, number one, the fee on commercial property is not limited to $150. It's multiples of $150. When all the tenants are in those buildings and they're paying their rent and there's a good economy and they're making money, then that's easy to pass on. We are in a situation today throughout the United States that there are less mom and pop businesses opening up or being able to function than there were since the Great Depression. So
I think everything you do, whether it's an increased fee at the site itself or you're charging some more money, you have to go back to that and say, where is the breaking point? You know, during the Reagan years, there was the Lafferty curve. Mr. Lafferty said, hey, you can get more tax dollars if you charge less, and he was right. I think everybody in the room shares the same concern. We need to try to take care of the environment. We need to get the... I'm in the tool and entertainment business, is what I like to call it. Now, I hear this thing from legislators a lot that have a different philosophy about my business than I do. It's got nothing to do with the dump business. I do have some experience, though not quite as much as Dave or this gentleman. I do pick up the garbage and take it to the dumpster, and I think most months I pay that gentleman to come pick it up. So I do have some experience. But in my industry, there's people that throw at this firm zero. If we can have just zero this, zero this, zero this, zero this. And I'm referencing the gun business, okay? It's great to aim for the stars, but if we only land on the moon, that's fine too. If we can get 80% or 90% to that, I just, anytime I hear this concept, whether it's from, was it the Association of Mayors, the quote, whatever, anytime I hear that, it's like, come on, let's be realistic. So let's tamper this. Yeah, yes, I think, and we're Calaveras County. We're not L.A. We're not, so let's take this and look at the good ideas and choose from this. But if we can get to 80 or 90% or whatever. Another thing I was noticing, I have relatives out in North Carolina, and I don't know exactly why they do it, but you were using pine needles as an example, and they use all their pine needles around their trees and stuff, and I don't know whether it's a pest situation or whatever. That's right. So anyway, I just want to talk about the cost. Make sure that you got the cost and it makes sense. The other thing, and I will point this out, you mentioned some months ago you came back and the gate guys, they need to start getting identification. Okay, I have a friend that happens to work out there. He paid mentally about $11, and his job got much more difficult when that was implemented. Okay, because the public is not too cooperative in that. Well, you know me or whatever, but he tells me yes, he's having to turn down people that come across the river and stuff like that. While that is a good idea and it is being implemented, it's a difficult for that help. And each time you come up in this process, hopefully when you come up with something, you weigh the balance of trying to keep that enforced. If we have to hire more garbage police and that costs us more money than the public works directors that have to go up in your district or thing to pick up a refrigerator now and then it's a loss, a loss situation to the taxpayers of Calaveras County. Okay, that's all. And I don't have any of the solutions here. I just see some things. These are some ideas that jumped in my head.
Thanks a lot. Any additional public comments? Going once? Going twice?
Sure.
Going three? What, Cliff? Oh, we got right hand.
It's a long time.
Yeah. He had to go up to Murphy's to to deliver those resolutions that we passed earlier. So. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break and then come back to the last agenda item. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks again. That was good. Howard had that. Okay, moving down to agenda item number 30, board member announcements. In compliance with AB 1234, Chapters Government Code Section 53232.3D, this is the time for board members to report on meetings attended on behalf of the county and to carry out their duties as a county supervisor. Debbie?
Well, I'll report on COG. Per our JPA agreement, COG did not have a July meeting, but we did have a really good workshop in June that was attended by both some Calaveras County, Amador County representatives from their transportation agency and board supervisors. And it was just a very good overview about where funding is in transportation for California and some ideas about how to raise funds in California for funding. of transportation. So more to follow as CLOUD kind of processes some options and brings it back to our board. But that was a very good meeting, and I thought well attended. Central Sierra Child Support Agency held a meeting on the 29th, but we had a lack of quorum, so the meeting was not held. We had a few supervisors who primarily were involved in the fire from Alpine County, and at the last minute were not able to attend, so therefore we didn't have a quorum. We had an IHSS meeting on the 29th that went very well. I think the group is coming together, starting to look at how to better communicate and educate the greater community about IHSS, and have some good ideas for the future. And I'll be reporting back more on that as they develop a game plan there. So that's been the meetings more or less that I've been involved with.
All right, thanks, Debbie. I also attended the COG meeting that Debbie mentioned. It was a training meeting held at Camps and Angels Camp. Was very worthwhile. Got some good information passed on. Last Friday I attended a Commission on Aging meeting, and prior to that I'd had a meeting with a couple of members of the Commission on Aging to get a little bit of direction. They are a very valuable resource for me because I am on the JPA 12 Area Agency on Aging board, and have been taking a lot of what I learned from them back. But I want to say something while I'm on that subject. In the future, late August or so, I'd like to see a study session set for the Commission on Aging to review their rules, because they're in a little bit of a quandary, and maybe the board can get involved in that and get them set, and get everything straightened out once and for all. It is a good resource for me, and I'd like to see them go forward. I had a meeting of the CSA1 Road Committee last Tuesday. There really has been quite a bit of work done by them to get their accounting systems in order, and I feel real good going forward working with them. I also attended a meeting of the Republican Central Committee. There was an economist, I guess you would call him, named Guy Puccio, that gave a little bit of talk more on national issues than local issues, but it was actually very interesting, and was glad that I made the drive up to Angels Camp to attend that. It was pretty riveting when you're listening to him, and you're hoping that some of his predictions don't come true, but at the same time, I did keep my ears on what he was talking about. Of course, we all go to a lot of little things almost on a daily basis, but one thing I've been getting calls from both sides of the issue, that we kind of left our duties with the marijuana issue hanging and wouldn't quite get it figured out. So in the future, I'd ask that we also set up a study session on to create a ad hoc committee which involves a cross-section of people regarding the issue that can give us some advice, because I feel like we walked out of here not knowing what direction to take. And I think if we create that ad hoc committee, it's going to give us a little direction and help us to know how to make decisions regarding the cannabis issue in the county. So, and I'm very willing to be the board member that's assigned to that also, and step out and see if I can remember any of my pharmacy applications when we're talking it through. And that's all that I have that I've done. But as he said, and I was really appreciated Jeff's presentation. Some of it I've been hearing, but since I'm probably the layperson in the room when we have those solid waste task force meetings, I appreciated you reiterating it, because
got to be drilled into my head a lot, but he is right. We're in real concerning straits with some of it, and it does need to be addressed. As he said, next Monday at 4:30 to 6:30, so if you're watching this at home or if you're in the audience you want to come, there's a solid waste task force meeting. We started from nowhere, but each time it gets a little better formed and we get a little better directed on where we're going. And it is a very complicated issue, but there's a lot of expertise in the room.
Where's it held?
The adjoining room. Yeah, in the old courtroom. So it's something to come and listen to and maybe give some thoughts on. I can tell you it is, when I got involved in it thinking the garbage was going to be a slam dunk, it is a very complicated industry. And we have a lot on our hands going forward. 4:30 to 6:30. And it's next Monday. I have on the 20th of July. Even if you just sit and listen, you'll see the. Well, you've got really have the industry experts sitting at the table with our public works director and our deputy public works directors generally in the room also. So, I mean, I'm kind of like a sponge, and he was cracking up when the goats issue come up because I bring that up every time. There's a lot of opportunity for us to do stuff, but it's hard to know where to begin. I would invite anyone to come. It sounds like a quiet committee, but it really got a powerful job ahead of it. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Staff?
If I could get some clarification on the study session with the Commission on Aging, I assume that's in regard to the bylaws.
The bylaws.
Is that something the board as a whole wants to see as a study session? We have had challenges with the Commission on Aging in trying to update their bylaws. County Council has been, and the CAO's office has worked with them on numerous occasions. There are issues. So far, we have not been successful in resolving them. So I don't know if that is the board as a whole wants to do a study session with them or let us continue to work on it.
Well, I actually talked about it with them, and so did Cliff. And if you want to bring me in, maybe, and I talk with County Council over it, I'm perfectly willing to do that to know where we're going with it.
Yeah, let's do that first and see if you can accomplish it.
Before we do that, but they're a good group, and I think they want to have direction going, and I think we can kind of bridge a gap. One of the I don't want to say it's an issue, but the lacking with the Commission on Aging is there hasn't been a supervisor assigned to it. And probably there could have been a better liaison in past years, or a better vehicle in past years. I don't want to say they schlepped their job, I don't mean that. But no one really was paying attention to them, I think, a lot of the times. Where I'm going to try to keep going because, as I tell them, they're probably helping me more than I am them with my JPA 12 duties. I really think that I can bridge a gap, and if nothing else, maybe we have a supervisor assigned to be with them all on a regular basis going forward.
Well, then, if you're willing, I can arrange a meeting, Supervisor Kearney, with myself and Julie Moss-Lewis, who I believe has been handling working with the updates to the bylaws with the Commission on Aging.
Well, before I set the session up, why don't we do that, and then if I feel like we can bridge that gap without going forward, good. And if not, we'll bring it back to the full board to help us get direction on it. How about that?
That sounds good.
Thanks for helping me clarify.
And I was a little unclear. Do you want a study session on medical marijuana to develop an ad hoc committee?
I just want an ad hoc committee set up so that the ad hoc committee can start working on the issues. I'm getting calls from all sides of the issues. I don't know if it requires a full study session or it's just an agendized item for the board to look at it and say, okay, let's get a person from this side of the issue, that side of the issue, a couple, citizens that aren't connected at all, that can start looking into these things. Because if I came through with anything when we did have the late afternoon study session here, the board didn't know what to do with it, but that hasn't stopped the calls from coming into me.
So then, for clarification, you're looking for us to bring board an agenda item for the board to discuss the possibility of an ad hoc committee to discuss medical marijuana.
Yes. Without confusion anymore, yes. I mean, I can't do that by myself and just say, let's create this. I need the board authority to do that.
Well, it's better to have it.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking is that it be agendized. I want to create an ad hoc committee that starts to really examine these issues and gives the board direction going forward.
And would this be just relative to dispensaries? Would it be relative to cultivation? Because in the study session, it was a 5-0 vote of the board, to direction of the board to not move forward with the cultivation ordinance. So what I'm hearing then is you want to come back and form an ad hoc committee to revisit
the cultivation.
Cultivation only?
Cultivation would be what I would say at this point.
And
but don't we have things coming before us in like 2016 on the ballot that's going to address so much
Well, I
of
think
it?
that's why we backed out of it initially.
But we could develop, I think there is especially, the calls I get on it are kind of a nuisance type thing.
Yes.
What I'm hearing from people is, these guys moved in to the neighborhood, and they're basically just it's nuisance issues. So I think that would be important to see if we could address that. So I'd be willing to entertain it. That's for sure.
I think it's moving very fast, and we have. I really think that we need to revisit it because it's moving so fast that things are happening that weren't anticipated. Chris is. And some of the concerns, too, I've got are coming from realtors that are getting inquiries that they are concerned about. And then I've even had people who are involved in the cultivation who are concerned about where it didn't go. And maybe they're open now to an element that might take it down the wrong path. So it's coming from every side of the fence on this. And I don't think we can ignore what's being put before
We
us.
should. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that it's too big an issue to wait, to not start addressing it today. Even if we don't finalize anything by 2016, at least we can start, the ball rolling on it. So I'd be willing to come back.
And I guess my idea of a committee is that we've got to have people that sit down and start to really analyze these issues that they're dealing with. And right now, just to bring it back to the board, I don't think it's going to solve anything because we'd be in the same quandary we were before. We were overwhelmed with it.
No, I meant when I bring it back, it's in the sense of this agenda.
No. I know what you're saying, Chris. I don't disagree with it one bit. We need advice from a group that puts time, just like we're putting time into understanding solid waste, into this issue and can tell us.
okay, so we had a committee before that was working on the cultivation.
But I think he's talking about a larger community.
So you're looking at a larger committee pulling in people
An
from...
ad hoc committee, and the membership should probably be set up by the board with at least one board member on it in somewhat public meetings. I think there should be somebody from the industry involved in it, if that's what you call it, I guess, or the cultivation side of it. Somebody who doesn't like necessarily the issue either, and probably some citizenry that are neutral. And that's going to be a hard committee to put together, but we need to have them look at
I mean, the regulations and take a rational look at what we haven't done. Because I am, as I said, I'm getting concerned from people.
Then let me talk to County Council. Julie and Megan had worked a lot on this issue, and I wouldn't want to say what that's going to look like coming forward until I've had a chance to talk to them because of the legal ramifications.
Okay, but I don't remember ever there being an ad hoc committee that met in public.
No, we didn't have a public, we just had the staff.
Internal.
And me and Clay.
Law enforcement.
And I believe it was the intent once we had, direction was received from the board on a couple of issues regarding the ordinance that they would take it out and do public outreach meeting to get that type of public input. It was, the initial committee had been meeting to develop the ordinance. There were certain areas about whether indoor grows, outdoor grows, how large it grows, et cetera, that they had looked for direction on the board, or did the board choose not to do anything. And once those had been determined, it was then the intent of County Council, and I hate to speak for them, but to go out and have public meetings to get their input before a final draft of the ordinance was brought to the board. So if I can, let me speak to both, well, Megan's out on leave at the moment, but let me speak to Julie, who is also very involved in that, and see what we can bring back to you.
I'm good with that. I just want to get the ball rolling on it.
Okay.
If you can take a public comment.
Yeah, just 1 second. Okay, so we're good on that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so public comments, and this is, keep it really short to the,
Absolutely.
just the idea of the ad hoc committee.
Yes, I think you really need to have two committees or two themes in the committees. One about the cultivation side and one about the distribution side. I think it's very important that you get working on this right away. And why that is in, was it 2009 or 2010, the vote for legalization of marijuana was very close, okay? Chances are the people that are promoting the legalization of marijuana will be successful. The state is trying to be pro-reactionary to that right now. There are various bills introduced in different committees. And however if Calaveras County is not forward-thinking and doesn't have the rules in place for the distribution, whether it's, everybody is in agreement on currently, and like I tell everybody, currently the cultivation, transportation, and sale of marijuana is illegal, with the exception of medical marijuana. Calaveras County was forward-thinking. They came up with an ordinance in 2005. There's been a lot of discourse and stuff back on that. So with that discourse and that complexity is going to get a lot graver in the future if the citizens say, you can use this just like alcohol. In the underlying theme in the committee hearings going right now is a lot of the culture folks want a new division set up, or they want it under the consumer affairs, whereas some people who I kind of agree with want it administered through the ABC, similar to how they're administering things. But this is coming to a head. It's going to come to a head very quickly, and it's not.
We're going to. I mean, and I don't mean to cut you off.
No, cut me off. That's fine.
But we'll have that discussion when it comes back on the agenda, and then you'll have.
Yeah, I think you should look at both issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bill McManus, Calaveras Project, and listening to the guy, I agree with some of the things he had to say. Obviously, a lot more attention needs to be focused on this problem. I think when, in April, when the vote was taken, what's happening now was probably an unintended consequence of opening it up with no controls, and now it's kind of overwhelming the county. I mean, the Calaveras County is underwater with marijuana. As far as what happens in 2016, it's not going to really change the county that much. You will always have the opportunity, the jurisdiction, and the control to determine what you do with your land use in this county. Just like in the state of Colorado, they have the same laws there. 77% of the communities, counties, and cities in Colorado do not allow legalized marijuana in their communities. So that The people who voted for it were in the high population centers between Denver, Aurora, Colorado Springs. But the vast majority of people in Colorado live in communities that are free of legalized marijuana. That's the same thing we have here, and that's been upheld by the state Supreme Court, that counties and cities have the absolute control over their land use. And so whether it's approved or not is almost like a footnote. I belong to a large state organization that monitors what's going on with the legalization process. So far, there is no initiative moving forward on legalized marijuana. It looks like the state may move in with a variation of AB 266 or some other mutation and try to take over something which you were talking about, the ABC, something like that, kind of doing a state-monitored marijuana program. So even if that comes about, counties still have that jurisdictional veto, if you will.
Yeah, and what you're saying, once again, where it's the the problem with this agenda item is that this is not agendized right now, this discussion. So we'll bring it back and have that discussion.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that, that just as a counterbalance to what's been said so far.
Sure.
That, talking about it and quickly is probably to everyone's benefit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my comments are quicker. I recommend maybe calling a fact-finding committee, and you'll have polarized people. If they can end up agreeing on what facts are, that could be a great help. And also the dialogue would be good.
Thanks, Al. Jeff, did you have something you wanted to?
About medical marijuana? Oh.
I just want to talk about goats. No, I'm kidding.
You can eat it.
See you next Monday.
I think we are in the middle of doing some grazing contracts. And this late in the year, that will be goats. Earlier in the year, we can go cows. But anyway, we have a lot of land that we need grazed. I just want to give you a quick status report for Public Works. Wagon Trail is nearing public hearing for the environmental document and the draft project report, draft environmental document, draft project report. I'm anticipating a public hearing at Bret Harte High School sometime mid-September. It got pushed out. Our friends are taking a little longer to review and approve than I had anticipated. So that's coming up in September. 1226 is fully involved in construction. So those people down in Valley Springs, I apologize. I will be posting a weekly construction schedule for the following week on the Public Works website on Fridays. There's going to be another 8 night closures for us to get through this project between now and the end of October so that people can get fair warning. I have a project coming, a disc golf course coming up for the park across the street. I'm awaiting my final permit application for some ADA parking spaces and an accessible bathroom that's going to be put up there. Currently, I've given them permission to do some clearing and grubbing, removal of some poison oak, and some staking for potential locations of the disc golf holes. But no permanent work is allowed until they get their permit in through Public Works Department. And I will also have to bring to the board a resolution to modify the agreement with Parks, San Andreas Parks, for revision to the O&M agreement before they can get started. Any other questions? You want to hear about the bocce ball court, or can we all go to lunch? Good.
What about the goat greens? I got some vacant land with lots of greens, so I want to get into the goat greens.
These are not grants for goats or goat milk. These are grazing contracts that we are entering into for county-owned lands.
Any other public comments on this agenda? Okay. Public comments, Peter?
No,
We're good? All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.